Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto's son Quirk in My Hero Academia. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by itzgatt and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. The 6-year-old Uzumaki Naruto sat on the 4th Hokage's head at the Hokage monument with his legs pushed into his chest with his arms wrapped around his knees. He was looking at the view in front of him with a sad gaze while the stars shone in the night sky. The view in front of him is the Hidden Leaf village. The village he was born in but wasn't welcomed in. No matter how hard he tried and what he did, he knew he wouldn't be accepted by them and still be viewed as nothing more than a nuisance. Everyone ignored him. He had no one except the people from Ichiraku Ramen and the 3rd Hokage, but even the old Hokage didn't visit him that much. He would try and gain their attention by pranking them, but they wouldn't budge and just glare at him before going back to whatever they wanted to do that day. He screamed as loud as possible that he would become Hokage, but they wouldn't even glance at him. It was absolutely disheartening for a child his age. He thought that showing his potential in the academy by studying as hard as he could and scoring a perfect score would finally gather their attention and show them that he wasn't just a demon or that kid. Still, they wouldn't even glance at him then or just continue to glare, ignore him, or give him a look of disgust. Naruto had a hunch of why they were doing this to him because he had heard whispers among the crowds he walked. It was always about the Kyuubi or the demon fox. He wasn't stupid. No, he had read about the tailed beast during his studying and speculated that the reason for his hatred had something to do with the tailed beast he had read about, but he hadn't figured out what exactly his connection was to the Kyuubi. Maybe I should ask the old man about it, he whispered to himself. He wasn't sure if the Hokage would even tell because every time he asked about his parents, the Hokage would show a sad expression on his face before it went back to his usual indifferent one. Just as he was about to stand up, he heard a noise next to him and saw red eyes staring at him in curiosity. He couldn't really see much of him. Only his figure and something black behind, but that was it. It was just that and those slitted crimson eyes. Usually, this would have been a scary sight for a child of his age, but after being glared at by almost everyone in the village with hateful eyes, he was used to it and only flinched a little. The unknown figure smirked upon seeing the reaction from the blonde kid. Humans are fickle things, aren't they? He asked as the child looked at him in confusion. Why was this person talking about humans as if was this person in front of him not human or something? What do you mean? He asked, tilting his head, not understanding why he would bring up something like that. The mysterious man did not answer his question, but instead just went on with his talk. What do you think about the village? He asked, not taking his eyes off of him. Naruto's gaze turned toward the village as his expression turned sad. I like the village because it's my home, but I am not liked, he said in an almost defeated tone, looking down on the ground with a sad look. What if I told you I could help you change your life? Naruto's head jerked up upon hearing that as he looked at the man with surprise evident on his face. You can? He asked softly. The red-eyed person smirked even though Naruto couldn't see it. Of course, I can, he said as if it was the easiest thing in the world, while Naruto's face brightened up hearing that, but… Naruto's expression wavered for a second as he gulped and asked, but what? Before that, do you not want to know why you're hated? He asked as Naruto got a bit annoyed with his behavior, but took a deep breath to calm himself. I'm not sure, but I think it has something to do with the Kyuubi, Naruto said. The man chuckled darkly as Naruto shivered a bit from the hollow feeling that he just got from his chuckle. It does because you are the holder or rather the jailer of the Kyuubi, he revealed as Naruto's eyes widened a bit and his face gained a sad look as one of his theories was confirmed. He was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. I'm willing to help you get an amazing life, but you won't ever see this place again, your chakra will be replaced, and you will be free of your burden with people no longer hating, and instead it will be a life full of love, he proposed as Naruto looked at him warily. This sounded amazing inside his head, but was it worth it to leave behind everything here? The Hokage would search for him for a while before moving on, and the Ichiraku would be sad, but no one else would even think about his disappearance. He steeled himself, looking at the man with a determined gaze. I accept, Naruto said as the man's eyes glinted happily. This won't take long, so stay still because it will hurt. He touched Naruto's forehead with his index finger as Naruto felt like his body was being burned by lava. He bit his lips to stop himself from screaming in pain as it felt like his entire body was being destroyed and remade. 2 souls in his body, the man thought as he smirked at the skills of the 4th Hokage. I suppose leaving him with an extra gift won't be a bad idea, he thought, smirking. It was finally over after a couple of seconds and Naruto was left panting. He was left taking deep breaths as his vision started blurring a bit. Looking at the man, his legs wobbled a bit after the process. Who are you? He asked in between pants. The man once again chuckled darkly as the moonlight illuminated their position, making a part of the mysterious man visible. Naruto's vision was almost entirely blurry, but he got a tiny glimpse of him. Just large black wings and blonde hair before he lost his vision and heard the man whisper his name as he fell unconscious. Lucifer, the man now known as Lucifer, said as Naruto fell down and the space under him turned black, swallowing his body whole, leaving him standing alone on the Hokage monument. He turned his gaze towards the Hidden Leaf village before his form vanished in a black flash. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, looking into a white ceiling that he guessed was from a hospital. He groaned in discomfort as his body ached all over. He lifted himself up to look around the room and saw that it was an ordinary hospital room. He racked his brain trying to find out why he ended up here. The last thing he remembered was sitting on the fourth Hokages and talking to that guy. It suddenly hit him like a brick as he went to try and channel chakra to confirm everything. He held up his right into the ram sign and tried to flare his chakra, but it didn't work. He tried this multiple times to make sure it was real. He finally dropped his hand, letting it rest on his lap. He didn't have chakra anymore, but he did feel something else inside of him. It was real. Everything did really happen. The man did help him. Just then, the door opened and a nurse walked inside. She looked a bit surprised seeing the kid being up and smiled at the cute kid in front of her. "Hello," Naruto said politely with a small smile. He didn't want to be hated like back in the village, so he tried to be as polite as he could. "Hello to you too," she replied back. "Now, I need you to lay down and let me see if everything is in order." She gently towards the child, who obliged and laid down as he let the nurse do her job. "Do you know what happened to you?" she asked, gently concerned for the kid. Naruto thought about it if he should tell these people what happened and decided just to tell them the truth and hide some facts. "I was talking to someone that I met when I was outside and we talked for a while before I suddenly felt really tired and passed out," he said as the woman looked a bit alarmed at that. "I don't remember much before that. The next thing I know, I am waking up in this bed." "Did the man do anything weird to you?" she asked in concern, hoping the man hadn't done anything terrible to the cute kid. Thankfully he shook his head. "I don't think he did." She sighed in relief. "Well, in any case, you seem to be fine now," she said, smiling at him. "You had a high fever and your body temperature was very hot when that gentleman brought you here to this hospital," she finished as Naruto looked confused at her. "Can you tell me of the person who brought me here?" the boy asked with a nervous voice, hoping that this wasn't some kind of genjutsu and that he was still in Konoha and would see the Hokage or Anbu come inside any moment. He was hoping not, because even though he didn't really know any one of the nurses in Konoha, he knew they would treat him harshly, and she hadn't. "I'm right here," said a voice, making both the nurse and Naruto turn around to see a handsome young man with messy blonde hair and gold-brown eyes, with two little black triangles just below his tear ducts. His eyes resembled that of a bird, according to Naruto. He wears a black shirt with a wavy golden pattern like a ripple in a pond, over which he has a tan jacket with a high collar, the insides and cuffs of the sleeves lined with white fur, and black gloves. Alongside that, he wore a pair of yellow headphones and a yellow-tinted visor over his eyes. But what caught Naruto's attention were the set of large bright red wings with feathers that gradually lengthened the further down they go he had. He marveled at not only the wings themselves but the color of it. He had always loved the color red along with orange. While Naruto was looking at Hawk's outfit and wings, Hawks looked at the kid in front of him with a calculating gaze. This kid, in his opinion, was an anomaly because there was absolutely no information about him. No parents, no guardian, no name, literally nothing. He had reported this, and he was very much interested in this unknown person. "Well, I'll try to keep an eye on him to see what I can figure out about him," he thought before looking at the nurse and flashing her a charming smile. "Can I talk to him in private for a while?" he asked while the nurse blushed a bit and nodded her head shyly as she walked out. Naruto stopped looking at his wings after seeing the nurse leave and looked at the man nervously, wondering what he wanted with him. Hawks walked forwards in a carefree manner as he stood in front of Naruto's bed with his hands in his pockets. "So, can you tell me your name?" Naruto's sweat dropped a bit at his carefree attitude. Naruto was hesitant, but something was telling him to trust this man in front of him, so he smiled and rubbed his head. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," he said cheerfully. "Uzumaki?" thought Hawks in confusion and wonder while he kept the same carefree expression on his face. "I've never heard of that before." "So, what were you doing out there so late?" he asked while Naruto flinched a bit. "I don't remember," Naruto answered, frowning as he tried to say it as confusingly as possible to ensure he didn't get marked as a crazy person. It wouldn't do if he just got a new chance at a better life and then he gets mistaken for a crazy person. Hawks was silent for a bit as he looked at Naruto for a couple of seconds before sighing. "Well then, kid, do you know where your parents are?" he asked before cursing himself slightly as Naruto's face turned completely sad. Naruto looked down sadly at the reminder of him not knowing who his parents were and if they abandoned him or not. I don't know who my parents are, he said in a genuinely sad tone as Hawks nodded his head, knowing he was telling the truth by his tone. He racked his brain, trying to figure out what he should do with this kid in front of him. Naruto said, gathering Hawks' attention. I forgot to ask about your name, Naruto said with a sheepish smile while scratching the back of his head. Hawks smirked a bit at his attitude. My name is Kigo Tamaki, or you may know me as Hawks, the number 7 pro hero, he said while Naruto looked at him with sparkling eyes. This person in front of him was a hero. Naruto was looking at in awe because he always liked heroes. His favorite hero was the 4th Hokage, and he himself always wanted to be regarded as a hero. That's so cool, Naruto said with an exciting voice. Hawks shrugged his shoulders. Meh, sometimes it's a bit too much work, he said in a lazy tone, making Naruto's sweat drop before shaking his head as his blue eyes sparkled widely. But still, it's so cool that you're a hero, he gushed. I've always wanted to be a hero. Hawks looked amused at the kid in front of him. So you want to be a hero, he said. Well, the doctors did check to see if you have a quirk or not, and you do have one, so you can become one if you want. Naruto was a bit confused at the quirk part before he remembered that Lucifer guy telling him that he would get a new power, and hearing a hero say he could become a hero himself made him feel warm and really happy as he willed away any tears that were threatening to come out. Hawks looked at Naruto to see him holding back tears as his eyes softened a bit seeing the sight. He wasn't that much of an emotional person, but this kid was all alone in this world and he had no parents or guardians to take care of him. Plus, he did tell the Hero Public Safety Commission that he would investigate this further himself, so it wouldn't hurt to take him under his wing. Hey, you said you wanted to be a hero, right? Hawks asked as Naruto nodded his head eagerly. He smirked as he turned around and walked towards the door before stopping as he opened the door. He looked back to see Naruto looking at him confusingly. You'll be under my care now, so be prepared to become a hero. Naruto's eyes widened as Hawks closed the door behind him, leaving a tearful Naruto with a smile on his face. Naruto clutched the sheets tightly as he let his tears of happiness pour down his face. He was in this new place for only a bit and already someone had acknowledged him and decided to take care of him and help him become a hero. Wiping away his tears, he got off his bed and went towards the window to look outside, and once again, his eyes widened seeing the sight in front of him. Rows of large buildings, cars, and heroes were the sight that greeted him. He marveled at everything he saw. Never before had he seen something like this back in Konoha. Granted, he had never gone outside of Konoha, so he didn't know if there was a place like this in the elemental nations, but this was amazing in his eyes. This was his new life now. He had someone precious to him already, and he had a new place he could call home and protect. His eyes shone with determination as he vowed to protect this place with all his might and become a great hero that everyone could look up to. So I have to register my quirk, and you're going to enter me into a school? Naruto asked his guardian, who nodded his head at him. Yes, I found this charming little place where we can live and is close to your new school. Where is it located? Usatafu. Naruto's eyes widened a bit in surprise. But isn't that far from your agency, Hawks? He asked, a bit surprised that he would move with him so far away from his agency. His guardian, now revealed to be Hawks, shrugged his shoulder nonchalantly. I'm pretty fast when I want to be, so don't worry about it. He said, waving away his worry. Naruto reluctantly nodded his head as they continued on their way to complete today's tasks. Naruto had discovered quite a lot about this new world. The first thing he found was the advanced technology this world had. Compared to the elemental nations, this place was much further developed in terms of technology, but he wasn't sure yet in terms of power. He had heard about the strongest hero who was called All Might. He was amazing in his opinion, but he liked Hawks much more, and in his opinion, Hawks' quirk was much cooler. Speaking of quirks, it reminded him of people having chakra, but not everyone had quirks here. About 80% of the population had quirks, while the rest were quirkless. Naruto himself had a quirk. He had discovered that he could control fire, and his eye color would change into the same color as that Lucifer person. He had even lost his whisker marks, which was a bummer in his opinion because he liked them a bit, but he wasn't complaining that much. Hawks had officially become his guardian who would take care of him. Naruto already looked up to him even if he was a bit lazy, but he still thought that he was terrific and he wanted to surpass him and make him proud. Naruto had named his quirk Neo Lucifer in honor of the person who had given him this opportunity. After getting his quirk registered, he had to wait as Hawks had to get some paperwork done. Naruto, being the child he was, went to explore this place a bit. He was walking down the hallway and turned right, but unfortunately, he bumped into someone as they both fell down on the ground. Ow. He heard a high-pitched voice say in pain as he looked up to see who had bumped into him. It was a girl who had short black hair that was tied into a spiky ponytail, with a strand of her hair hanging on the right side of her face. She also had really lovely onyx eyes that point slightly inwards, resembling a cat. Naruto got and put his hand forwards to help the girl as she looked up. "Sorry for bumping into you," Naruto apologized as she took his help and got back up. She dusted herself off as she looked at him and smiled. "It's not a problem," she said. "I should have been looking where I was walking." Naruto extended his hand once again. "I'm Naruto, by the way," he said in a friendly tone as she took his hand and shook it. "Momoyoi Rozu." Naruto retracted his hand and put them in his pockets, trying to replicate Hawk's. "So, what are you doing here?" he asked, trying to start a conversation with her as they started walking around. "Oh, my mother had something to do there and she brought me too," she stated as Naruto nodded his head. "Yeah, my guardian was taking care of something and after that, he will start helping me become a hero," Naruto said in an excited tone as her eyes sparkled and an eager smile appeared on her face. "You want to become a hero?" she asked while he nodded. "That's so cool. I want to become one too," she spoke in a very excited and bubbly tone as Naruto smiled at her attitude. "Do you know which school you're planning to go to?" Naruto asked. Silently hoping his new friend would go to the same school as him. She nodded her head eagerly and smiled widely. "I want to go to UA when I grow up and become the strongest female hero." Naruto smiled at her thinking her dream was very good. He put a fist over his heart as he smiled with determined eyes. "I'm going to UA too, and my dream is to become a respectable hero who people can look up to," Naruto said as they both quickly trailed off bonding with each other through their dreams and goals. Ox was finally done with all his work as he was looking around for Naruto so they could go and check out their new home and move in. "I leave that kid alone for only 1 minute and he's already gone somewhere else," he thought, sighing as he looked around for a blonde-haired kid with blue eyes. After a couple of minutes, he finally found him and he was very much amused by the sight that greeted him. There was Naruto eagerly talking and laughing with a girl that he didn't recognize but saw how much fun they had together as he leaned against the wall and let them talk some more. After a while, he called out Naruto's name as the blonde looked at him and instantly understood. Naruto turned back towards Momo to see she had a sad expression knowing Naruto would leave. She really liked Naruto because he was so welcoming and had a really warm aura. Naruto smiled at her. "Momo, don't be sad because I know we both will see each other at UA so we can become heroes together." He cheered her up as her sad expression turned into a happy one. "You promise?" she asked in a hopeful voice. She wanted to become a hero together with him as he became someone very precious to her already, even if they had met each other not long ago. He treated her like a normal person. Unlike her other friends, who always regarded her with so much praise, most people thought she was just a rich snobby girl, but Naruto treated her like an ordinary girl, and she liked that very much. "I pinky promise," he said, sticking out his pinky as Momo grinned at him, brought out her pinky, and hooked it before Naruto ran towards Hawks. He looked back as he stood next to him and waved at her while she did the same. Hawks was more than amused at the sight of the two children as he was immensely enjoying this and knew he could use this to tease Naruto. "Got yourself a girlfriend already, huh?" He spoke with a teasing smile while Naruto looked at him with a confused expression. "Huh, what do you mean?" he asked, not understanding what Hawks was saying. Hawks almost face-faulted at his response as he looked at him, not knowing what to do before shaking his head. He's already too dense. "I already feel bad for that girl," he thought, sighing. "Nothing, let's go check out our house," he said as Naruto looked at him before shrugging his shoulders and following him. "Whoa," Naruto said as he looked with wide eyes at the sight in front of him. It was a 3-story tall modern-looking house with a small gate in front of it. The house. There was a big driveway towards the garage and in front stood a big expensive-looking car. Naruto didn't know anything about the car, but he knew it was an expensive one. Turning towards his guardian, who was looking at him amused, he deadpanned. "I thought you said it was little." He shrugged. "I like to live in a stylish place, but are you really complaining?" he asked sarcastically as Naruto shook his head. He wasn't going to complain at all. This was a massive improvement compared to his apartment in Konoha. They walked inside as Hawks used a code to open the gate and Naruto was sure to remember that code. Naruto thought the outside was very expensive looking and luxurious, but the inside was even better. He hadn't seen such a clean and expensive looking place ever in his life. Well, there were clan estates in Konoha, but compared to this, that was nothing. Naruto marveled at the expensive leather couch, the big flat-screen TV, and the expensive-looking kitchen with all the utensils you needed. He didn't even know how to cook, but he already loved the kitchen. "Their bedroom is on the 2nd floor, and it's the 3rd room," Hawk said as he started going up the stairs with Naruto following him. "The 1st room is my office while the 2nd is my bedroom." Naruto nodded and said yes in understanding as he opened the door to his room. His room was much bigger than his previous one. His room was painted black with a queen-size bed with a flat-screen TV opposite the bed. Next to his bed was a drawer with an alarm clock and a lamp post on it. A walk-in closet was off to the right side that Naruto had never seen. He also had a desk with a desktop along with a gaming console for entertainment. "This is amazing," he said, looking at his room in awe. Hawks had really outdone himself, in his opinion. He smiled at the thought of his guardian. He was going to become an extraordinary hero to make him proud and not waste everything that Hawks has given to him. Stepping outside on the balcony, he saw the sight that greeted him. It was a fantastic view of the city as he marveled at everything. He stretched out his arms as he closed his eyes and took a deep breath before clenching his fist in determination. Hawks was flying above his balcony, looked at him with a smile. "It's going to go far," he said with a confident voice and a bit of pride. The sun shone down brightly into a balcony window of a bedroom as the occupant of the room groaned in his sleep. A pair of eyes opened blearily, revealing to be of sky blue colors. He yawned tiredly and rubbed his eyes to get rid of some tiredness. Pushing off his blanket, he stood up from his bed and made his way over to his closet. Picking up the black uniform of his new school, he made his way towards his bathroom. The blue-eyed youth stood in front of the mirror to reveal a 12-year-old. He was tall for his age. Standing around the height of 5'4". He had golden spiky blonde hair that framed his angular faces and most of his forehead. Naruto ran his hands through his hair and tried to put them down, but it would just pop back up to his usual spiky style. "I should just give up on trying to do that," he thought, pouting ever so slightly. Shaking his head, he started on his morning routine. Downstairs with Hawks, who wore casual clothes, was setting up the table for breakfast so he and his pseudo-little brother could eat before they both had to go off and start their day. Naruto had become someone very important to Hawks. He had come to see the little kid as a sort of little brother that he never had. He should be coming downstairs any minute now, he thought while putting down the plates on the table. Pulling the chair back, he decided to sit down and scroll through his phone. Not long after, he heard footsteps running down the stairs. Looking behind him, he saw a fresh-looking Naruto with his black school uniform on, making his way over towards him with a happy smile. "First day of your junior high school. Are you ready for it?" he asked the younger blonde. Naruto set down his backpack at the couch as he made his way towards the table. "Yeah," he said with a smile that faltered a second later, "although I hope it won't be the same as the last school." Hawks laughed at the small scowl that was plastered on Naruto's face. "You were laughing at me for having fangirls, and then you got your own. I don't understand them. Even if I don't pay them any attention, they still act all lovey-dovey around me." "That's right, you're still crushing on that black-haired girl," Hawk said with a smirk as Naruto's cheeks burned bright red. "What was her name again?" He put a finger on his chin in a thinking manner. "Mono or something." "It's Momo," Naruto said before looking away, "and I don't have a crush on her," he denied, hiding his flushed face as Hawks laughed at his embarrassment. Naruto glared at him, although the effect was slightly ruined because of his red cheeks. He just decided to give up on it. He looked at the perfectly set table as he was very hungry and excited for breakfast before going to school. Except there was no food anywhere apart from the drinks and milk. "Don't tell me you set up the table and was waiting for me to cook breakfast?" he asked, narrowing his eyes ever so slightly at Hawks, who got his laughter under control. "I have no idea what you're talking about," he said with a cheeky smile on his face as Naruto scowled at him. "You know you're much older than me, and you can't even cook the simplest things," Naruto pointed out. Hawks shrugged his shoulders in a non-caring manner. "Why should I when you can cook amazingly?" Naruto actually had nothing to say to that as he puffed his chest a bit in pride for his culinary skills. Seeing Hawks not budging, Naruto just made his way to the kitchen, all the while grumbling as Hawks chuckled at him from his seat at the table. "Can't you at least come and help me?" Naruto's voice rang out from the kitchen while Hawks was scrolling through his phone. "I already set up the table, didn't I?" Hawks argued in his favor while Naruto threw his hands in the air as surrender. Sometimes Hawks was too much to deal with in his opinion, although he wouldn't have it any other way, he thought with a smile. Naruto was currently standing at the gate of his new school. Aldera Junior High was the name of it. He would be here for 3 years before he would go and do the test to try and get into the best hero school there was. UA High School. Thinking about UA made him think about the girl he had promised to meet there and become heroes together. He hadn't seen Momo after that time and wished he had a phone then so he could contact her during all these 6 years. His lips unconsciously curled into a small smile thinking about Momo. As much he has always denied it when Hawks brought the point about him crushing on her. Hawks was right because he did have a crush on her. She was someone who was fun to play and talk with in his opinion. She was also the first girl his age that hadn't bullied, hated or ignored him like they did back in Konoha. He hoped these 3 years would go by fast so he could meet her again. Well, time to see if these 3 years are going to fun at least. It wasn't. Naruto's shoulders slumped slightly in his seat next to the window in his class, waiting patiently for school to end seeing as it was the last class. He groaned thinking about the previous situation. Flashback. Naruto was smiling to himself as he opened the door and entered the school building. He saw new faces everywhere and was currently happy that no one from his previous school was here. But then it happened. Many of the girls in the hall started to whisper with blushes on their faces upon seeing him. "Look at him. He's so cute and handsome at the same time. I know, right, those baby blue eyes are amazing. Do you think he will date me if I asked?" The whispers just kept increasing as Naruto's eye twitched in irritation, not that it bothered the girls from still eyeing him. Positive whispers weren't the only ones he received, granted, 90% was positive, the remaining 10% was negative, as the male figures in the hallways were scowling or glaring at him for getting the girls' attention so easily. "They don't even know my name, and they already like me," he grumbled inwardly as he just decided to smile outwardly and not pay attention to them. Granted, it didn't make them leave, instead they were even more enchanted by his smile, according to the increasing whispers. He did curse his parents for giving him his looks, as he knew that it was their fault for being so good looking and that it passed to him. Inside Naruto, Blonde and Naruto suddenly sneezed. "Do you think Naru-chan is talking about us?" Naruto asked the blonde, who smiled at her. "I'm not sure, but hopefully," he answered back. Back to the plot now. Naruto finally found his classroom. Opening the door, he saw that there weren't many people there. His attention was instantly gathered by two people. One was a boy with green hair and freckles on his face that was doing his best to make himself as small as possible from the other individual who, like him, had spiky hair, but instead of golden blonde, his were ash blonde. "Are you writing in that stupid notebook of yours again, Hideku?" The blonde growled at the green-haired boy whose face was pale. "Hey Kakin, I need it for the future as a HH hero," the poor boy managed to stutter out under the intimidating glare he was receiving. "Shut the fuck, a stupid quirkless Deku like you can't become a hero." Naruto narrowed his eyes at the scene. Looking around, he saw no one trying to help the freckled boy. He clenched his fist at this as a frown made its way towards his face. As much as he didn't want to make a scene on his first day, this did not sit right with him because it reminded him of the times he was bullied by other people in Konoha. Deciding to put a stop to this, he strode forwards. "What are you doing?" he asked as everyone stopped whatever they were doing and looked at the scene with curious eyes. Naruto paid them no mind, focusing on the two people in front of him. "It's none of your business, babyface," the blonde one snapped at him as some in the class flinched, while the freckled boy looked at Naruto with surprise and a bit of awe. "It is when you are bullying a classmate," Naruto said with a calm voice, not at all bothered or intimidated by the person in front of him. Bakugo let out a TSK as he turned towards him. He scowled and walked forwards, intent of putting this babyface in his place. A small explosion burst out of his hand, startling everyone in the class, while Naruto didn't show anything, but he was on guard, ready to use his quirk as self-defense if needed. "Maybe I should show why you don't talk down to me." Bakugo was now face to face with Naruto, who narrowed his eyes at him. Bakugo raised his hands to intimidate with his quirk, but Naruto was much faster than him as he activated his quirk and used fear illusion on him, seeing as he was close enough. The class was now a bit alarmed as all the girls were glaring at Bakugo for bullying the new handsome guy, but to everyone's surprise, the aggressive blonde suddenly froze as his entire body shook and kept shaking when Naruto blocked his strike. They saw some kind of ripple come out of Naruto's body that washed over Bakugo, which made him freeze, and some of the classmates that were close enough shiver from the effect. "Don't try do something like this with me," Naruto warned, glaring at Bakugo, who couldn't answer him as he stood there shaking. Naruto walked past him and put his hand out towards the freckled boy who was watching the scene with wide amazed eyes. Naruto pulled him up and gave him a small smile. "I'm Naruto," he said, stretching out his hand again for a handshake. "Nice to meet you." Izuku Midoriya was absolutely flabbergasted by what he was seeing. Bakugo, or as he liked to call him, Kakin, had just gotten scared or shook by this new person that he hadn't seen before. What's more is this person just brushed it off and decided to introduce himself to him. "Is Izuku Midoriya," he managed to say in his surprised and awed state, shaking his hand slowly, while Naruto looked at him for a bit before nodding his head and taking a seat next to the window. Everyone except Bakugo and Midoriya were left looking at the scene in awe, while the girls were gushing at the coolness of Naruto. "Hello class and welcome to your junior high years," the teacher said, walking inside the classroom, breaking everyone out of their stupor, along with Bakugo, who looked at Naruto with wide eyes. "How did he just do that?" he questioned inside his mind, looking at Naruto with a calculating gaze, while his body was still shaking a bit, but much less than a couple of seconds ago. He had just seen All Might slaughter everyone he knew before him with that smile that he always had. He admired All Might, and to see his favorite hero like that was absolutely horrifying. Bakugo did not understand how that babyface managed to do that, but from now on he would be wary of him. Izuku sat down and took occasional glances at Naruto, who was taking notes and occasionally looking outside, while Bakugo was silent. He was a bit unnerved by Kakin's behavior because he had never seen him like that before. Whatever Naruto had done to him really shook and surprised him. Flashback. Because of his stupid heroics, he had gotten very popular among the entirety of school. Word had gotten around very fast in the school of what he had done, and now he had even more fangirls. Ugh, this wasn't how it was supposed to go. He shuddered thinking about his situation, even some guys were looking at him like the girls, but at least most of them were looking at him in respect. Well, at least I made some friends, he thought, thinking about some of the people including Midoriya, who thanked him for saving him from Kakin confusing Naruto, but thankfully he got an explanation as to why he called his bully Kakin like that. Naruto was confused as to why someone that you've known from your childhood and been friends with from that long ago would bully you, and why Izuku just let it happen. He does look like he has confidence issues and is a bit shy. He shrugged it off, going back to watching the passing cars outside. Now he just had to endure 3 years of being the idol of the school, and he could finally start on preparing his hero journey. Sigh. It was going to be some very long 3 years ahead. Ahahahahaha. Damn it, stop laughing, Naruto shouted, glaring at Hawks, who was doubled over on the ground clutching his stomach, laughing too much as tears were prickling in his eyes. Hawks breathed heavily as he got his laughter under control and looked at the glaring blonde. It's your fault for helping the Izuku kid, he said, snickering. I don't regret helping him, but it made my situation even worse with fangirls, he grunted out in annoyance. You do know most guys would love to be in your position. Naruto scowled. You should know how bad fangirls are, he groaned tiredly, thinking about the amount of dates he had to refuse today, but it didn't even diminish his popularity. I had to deny so many of them today, and yet they didn't get mad, instead they just swooned again. Hawks laughed at him as Naruto finally had enough and sent a small fireball at him. Hawks jumped out of the way. Are you trying to destroy the house? Then you shouldn't try and rile me up. Naruto continued to chase after him while Hawks flew away from him, all the while laughing. Naruto, now at the age of 14 years old, was making his way to school. This was going to be his third and final year of junior high. Thinking about school made him think about previous 2 years of junior high. It wasn't interesting, to say the least. He was still seen as an idol, and the fangirls hadn't diminished, which irked him a lot. But he had become good friends with Izuku and had some sort of rivalry with his fellow blonde Bakugo. He had come to respect Bakugo's powers upon seeing it in action. At first, he hadn't thought much of him until he saw what he was capable of. Bakugo had an amazing quirk, and not only that, but he was intelligent too if his scores were anything to go by. They weren't really friends if you ask Naruto, but they were rivals who competed against each other often. When it came to academics, then most of the time Bakugo won out. They were both the top students, with Izuku coming in third, but when it came to sports and athletics, then Naruto outshined him by a mile. He was still a jerkin to almost everyone, and he hoped that it would become better over time. Izuku, in his opinion, had a good heart, but he didn't have a quirk that could get him far in the heroic society. Speaking of his freckled friend, he saw him standing among a crow watching something. Looks like there is a villain trying to do something again, he thought, walking towards the crowd to greet his friend. Izuku, he called out, making the mentioned boy turn around to give him a beaming smile. Nakin? He said with his beaming smile at the blonde whose eye twitched hearing that nickname. Izuku had quickly taken to calling him by his new nickname he had gotten after a couple of months of being friends with him. Naruto didn't like getting called that, but let it slide most of the time. Shaking his head, he decided to focus on the situation. Is there a villain attack again? He asked while they made their way through the crowd to get a better view. Getting through the crowd, both of them stopped in front of a blockade made by water. Naruto glanced at Hiro, who had made that. Backdraft was his name, and he was a rescue specialist. Who's fighting? Naruto didn't know, but suddenly flinched as he heard girls squealing in delight as he was looking around, hoping his fangirls wouldn't be anywhere near here. His friend was silently laughing at his expense. You can do it, Kamui. Naruto sighed in relief, hearing that they were just this other hero's fangirls. Looking at the mention. He looked at the hero who was fighting the giant villain. Kamui Woods, he reminded Naruto of the powers of the first Hokage he had read about. The amount of control Kamui had was astonishing, but he wasn't sure if he could create huge forest and still keep going like the first Hokage. Kamui Woods, Izuku gushed at the battling hero, the young and talented rising star. You were the one asking, but you gave a perfect commentary, kid, a random person next to his friend commented. He pointed towards Izuku with a grin on his face. You're a fanboy, aren't you? He stated while Izuku looked away embarrassed. Naruto snorted. Fanboy is an understatement, he thought, while they watched on with Kamui fighting the giant villain. Everyone watched anxiously as the hero prepared his attack on the villain. He probably will try and restrict his movements, Naruto thought, analyzing the situation before his thoughts were broken as a giant woman jumped and kicked the villain, knocking him out. Suddenly reporters swarmed the area taking pictures of the new arrival, who reveled herself in the situation and gladly introduced herself with a shake of her rear towards the camera. Naruto's sweat dropped at the sight. Looks like she really likes the attention she's getting. Naruto looked at his phone to see it was almost time for school to start. He put it back into his pocket and went to talk to his friend, but sweat dropped again seeing him furiously writing down notes into his notebook. He chuckled at the face Izuku was making as he turned around and walked towards the school. "Come on Izuku, let's go before we arrive too late," he called out, making the green-haired boy look at his retreating form. "Nakan, wait for me," he called out as he frantically put his notebook back and followed the blonde in a hurry. "Okay, you are all in 3rd grade now. It's time for you to think seriously about your future," the teacher said with a stern tone. "I'll pass out handouts for your future plans," but he clutched the papers in his hand and looked at them before grinning widely. "You're all planning to go into the hero course, right?" He finished as he threw the papers into the air while everyone in the class let out cheers of agreement. Naruto smiled at the scene, seeing everyone using their quirks while cheering loudly. Yes, you all have wonderful quirks. But using your powers at school is against the rules." "Sir, please don't put me in the same bag as the others," Bakugo said with his feet on the table grinning widely. "I really do not intend to make buddy-buddy with those that have weak individualities, you know," he said in an arrogant tone. Naruto scowled at him from his spot with the class joining in shouting at him in protest against his comment. "Oh yes indeed Bakugo, you want to go to UA High School, don't you?" The teacher's voice rang out throughout the room, making it go silent. Naruto was not surprised at all by this, knowing that Bakugo wants to become the best hero, but he was looking at Izuku in confusion, seeing him trying to make himself as small as possible. It didn't take long before whispers broke out from the others. UA? That national high school. It was in the top 0.2% this year, you know. Their acceptance rate's always really low, too. "I'm not surprised that extras like you are quaking," Bakugo said, breaking the whispers as he jumped on his desk. "I aced the mock test." He pointed at himself. "I'm the only one at this school who could possibly get into UA, and I'll definitely surpass All Might and become the top hero." He clenched his fist in determination. "I'll leave my name forever in the annual ranking of the richest people in the world." The cough made him stop his speech, and everyone turned towards the source, who was the rival blonde of Bakugo. Naruto just smiled cheekily at Bakugo, who scowled momentarily, forgetting about him. "I also aced the test Bakugo, and you don't seriously think you're the only one capable of getting into UA from this school, don't you?" Naruto asked sarcastically while the girls eyed dreamily at his declaration. "Ah, that's right Naruto, you also wanted to go UA," the teacher said, looking at the paper as Bakugo grunted in acknowledgement, knowing the baby face was capable of doing that along with Midoriya. That froze Bakugo completely, while Naruto looked surprised a bit before sending his friend a huge encouraging smile. The class though burst into laughter at that declaration, making Naruto sigh in annoyance at their disbelief. The poor boy was bombarded by the class's discouraging comments, making him feel more nervous. Suddenly Bakugo jumped forward and blasted Midoriya's table, blowing the boy back in fright and shock. Naruto narrowed his eyes dangerously at that. "Hey Deku." Bakugo called out as Midoriya looked up at him from the ground. "You're below the rejects. You're quirkless. How can you even stand in the same ring as me?" Naruto glanced at the teacher to see him just watching the scene unfold and not doing anything to stop it. That made him growl. He hated how the teacher just let Bakugo do what he's going right now. "No, wait, Kaken." The boy on the ground quickly said, waving his arms in denial. "It's not like I'm trying to compete with you or anything." He looked down, not wanting to meet his childhood friend's eyes. "It's just that it's been my goal ever since I was little. And I won't know unless I try." "What do you mean unless you try?" Naruto had enough and stepped off his chair, attracting everyone's attention. "Bakugo, how many times are you going to try and fight against people who can't fight back against you?" he said, narrowing his eyes. Izuku looked down sadly, hearing his friend saying he wasn't good enough. "Nakan. Shut up babyface, mind your own business," Bakugo responded, glaring at him, while Naruto glared right back at him, with the girls of the class joining Naruto. Not that it scared Bakugo or anything. Thankfully no fight happened as the class continued on till the bell rang and everyone started packing and leaving the classroom. Naruto was packing his stuff and checked his phone to see he had 2 hours left before he had to go to his workplace. He stood and wanted to leave, but his eyes caught Bakugo and 2 of his goons, once again picking on his friend. "Huh? Hero analysis for the future? Seriously?" The 2 goons of Bakugo said, laughing at Midoriya's expense, who stood up looking at Bakugo nervously. "It's fine, isn't it? Guy, give it back." Bakugo went to use his quirk and destroy the book, but it was snatched by another hand, making him look to his right to see Naruto glaring at, making Bakugo quickly jump back to gain some distance. He had learned that getting too close to his rival would result in you getting frozen up because he used some kind of illusion power when you were close enough. So, in order to avoid that, he jumped away from him with his 2 followers doing the same thing. Midoriya looked at Naruto in gratitude for saving his notebook, while Naruto handed it back to him with a small smile. Bakugo scoffed at the 2 friends. He turned around to leave before stopping at the door and looked back. "Don't apply to UA, you nerd, because a quirkless Deku like you can't ever get in." If you want to be a hero that badly, then believe that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life, was all he said before closing the door, leaving behind a glaring Naruto and a crestfallen Midoriya. Naruto sighed before looking at his friend who was looking down at the ground holding back tears. Naruto grit his teeth in anger seeing him like that. It reminded him when the villagers didn't believe in him becoming Hokage. He put both his hands on his shoulders, startling the freckled boy who looked at him. "Izuku, don't you dare listen to them. It doesn't matter what they say to you," Naruto said while his friend looked at him with teary eyes. "I don't care if you don't have a quirk or not, but I believe you can be a hero, because at the end of the day it's you who decides what to do with your life and not anyone else. So, don't give up and apply to UA so we can save people together." He finished with a big grin, letting go of his friend's shoulders who was openly crying tears hearing his motivational speech. "You have to start working out and improving your body because I want to see you in that exam taking place in 10 months. You better be ready for it." Naruto patted his back as he picked up his backpack. "I have to go and eat something before going to work. I'll see you tomorrow," he said before the class and the crying boy behind. Izuku Midoriya was aimless walking around holding his hero analysis book in his hands. He had just met his idol and favorite hero All Might. Not only that, but he discovered a huge secret about the number one hero. All Might had troubles with his quirk because of his injuries against one of his foes. Even if it was an amazing experience for a big fan like him, it left him completely crestfallen and unsure of his life. Because his idol had told him that it wasn't possible for someone quirkless like him to become a hero and that he should give up and try hard at another career in his life. He didn't know what to do now, even a pro hero. "The number one hero said that I couldn't do it," he thought sadly before his thoughts were broken by an explosion. He walked towards the crow that was looking at the sludge-like villain who was attacking someone while some heroes were looking at the scene. Once he got a good view of what was happening, his eyes widened in shock. He overheard people talking about a junior high schooler being caught by the villain for a while. He thought in awe. He couldn't hold it for long when he was caught by that villain, knowing that All Might lost it because of him made him look at the scene with horror. He covered his mouth, which was wide open because of his shock. He hoped that All Might or another hero would arrive soon to help the captured person. He wanted to leave and get away from, but his eyes finally caught that of the victims, and he froze seeing his childhood friend looking at everyone with fear in his eyes. Suddenly Naruto's speech rang out in his mind. "I believe you can be a hero because at the end of the day it's you who decides what to do with your life and not anyone else." His body moved before he could even think as his notebook fell down, and he ran as fast as he could towards Bakugo, while everyone's eyes widened in horror, seeing another kid run towards the villain. The heroes were shouting at him in an effort to make him stop, but they were ignored by him as he continued running forward. Midoriya was clawing at the villain in an effort to free his friend, but it didn't matter at all. Naruto, who had eaten and was walking towards his home to put his stuff away and get ready for work, tilted his head, seeing another crowd once again. A villain attack again, he thought, before he saw a skinny blonde man with a white shirt clenching his abdomen. He raised an eyebrow at the man seemingly struggling at doing something before shrugging his shoulders and walking forwards to see what was happening. Of all things, he did not expect to see Midoriya trying to fight against a villain who had captured Bakugo while the heroes were watching helplessly. He was angered at that as he blasted forwards and jumped into to help his friend. The people were once again completely shocked and horrified to see another kid trying to save the two others. Naruto threw his backpack away and activated his quirk as bright red flames fired at high speeds off him at the sludge, being careful enough to not hit Bakugo. "Where did this fire come from?" the sludge villain asked as most of his body was starting to melt away from the heat and intensity of the flames. He grunted in pain when it became worse and his victim's body was almost free. "Izuku, run away now," Naruto shouted towards the surprised boy who was looking at him in shock and surprise, but the villain unfortunately chose to attack that boy at that moment, making Naruto look at the scene in horror. "Izuku," he shouted when the villain's attack made contact as smoke obscured everyone's vision. Naruto's mouth was left open from his shout while he watched in horror as his friend seemingly died, but once the view was cleared, there stood the number one hero blocking the attack while grinning at Midoriya. Naruto was almost moved to tears seeing his friend being saved as he watched on, while All Might punched the villain away, created a tornado that almost blew him away if it weren't him bringing out his wings to hold himself in place. He retracted his wings when it died down and it started to rain. Naruto ran forwards towards his fellow students who were lying on the ground. All Might was giving an interview while the heroes were scolding Midoriya for trying to save him without powers. Although Naruto argued against them, saying he did the right thing by holding out long enough for All Might to get here, making them shut up quickly. Afterwards they praised his and Bakugo's quirk and tried to convince them to join their agency in the future as sidekicks. Naruto had no interest in that as he quickly excuses himself and ran to his work. Naruto woke up very excited as today was the day he would finally participate in the test that he has been waiting for a long time now. Naruto had grown during these last 10 months. He was now 5'10", while his face had lost some of its baby fat, with his jaw now more chiseled. During his junior high school years, he had trained his body a lot, but the last year he had put in an extra amount of effort into his workout, resulting in a lean muscular body. His hair was still the same golden spiky blonde hair, but now it was a bit longer. Basically his appearance is like the picture of this fic, if you wanted a visual for it. Quickly doing his morning routine, he made his way downstairs to eat breakfast, which was thankfully served by his housemate. "Big day today, huh?" Hawks asked from across the table while Naruto nodded his head eagerly. "Yeah." Naruto answered in return while eating his breakfast as fast as possible. "You know I can just get you through recommendation, right?" Hawks asked the eager blonde, who shook his head negatively. Naruto put a fist over his heart. "I want to get in with my own strength, and not through easy means," Naruto answered with a determined tone, making Hawks smirk at him. Arriving at the place where the entrance exam was taking place, Naruto quickly went inside to see rows of seats in front of a podium with a giant screen in front it. He scanned the crowd and found Izuku and Bakugo sitting next to each other. He kept looking around trying to a certain girl with black spiky ponytailed hair, but couldn't find her. He frowned at that but shook his head and decided to focus on the exams. He found an empty seat and paid attention as another hero who was called Present Mick making his way towards the stand on the podium. "For all you examinee listeners turning in, welcome to my show today." He spread his arms out widely in a welcoming manner and shouted out, "Everybody say hey." He turned his head and put his hand on his ear expectantly towards the crow and was met total silence. Naruto palmed his face at the total lack of response, while Present Mick slumped a bit. "What a refined response," he grumbled before making a pose. "Then I'll quickly present to you the rundown on the practical exam." Naruto sat a bit taller in attention hearing that. "Are you ready?" "Yeah." He was once again met with silence before Naruto heard Izuku going into his fanboy mode, seeing a hero annoying Bakugo next to him. Naruto sighed at that, but thankfully Present Mick decided to start with the explanation. "As it says in the application requirements, you listeners will be conducting 10-minute mock urban battles after this." Naruto nodded his head to this. He had read about this. "You can bring whatever you want with you. After the presentation, you'll head to the specified battle center, okay?" Behind Present Mick the screen showed the letters A to G as multiple battlegrounds. Naruto looked down to see which battleground he was in and saw the letter C on his card. He glanced at the others from his school and thought about where they would be. "I'm sure they wouldn't let people from the same school go to the same battleground," Naruto thought, knowing that people would work together then, so he knew that Bakugo and Midoriya would not be in the same place as him. 3 different types of foe villains are stationed in each battle center, Present Mick continued, as 3 types of robots appeared on the screen, with specified points above them. You earn points for each of them based on their level of difficulty. Your goal, dear listeners, is to use your quirks to earn points by immobilizing the foe villains. The pro hero pointed at them, of course. Attacking other examinees and any other unheroic actions are prohibited. Naruto's head automatically snapped towards Bakugo, who for some reason felt like once again insulting that stupid baby face. A student with glasses stood and raised his hand. "May I ask a question?" he asked a pro hero who gave the go-ahead to do so. The student pointed towards the paper in his hands on the printout. "There are 4 types of villains." His face and tone were stern as he continued, "If that is a misprint, then UA, the most prominent school in Japan, should be ashamed of that foolish mistakes." Naruto quietly groaned in annoyance at his comment. He already knew this guy would act like a student who tries too hard and is too stiff. The student with glasses continued as he placed a hand over his chest. "We examinees are here in this place because we wish to be molded into exemplary heroes." He suddenly turned around and pointed towards Izuku. "In addition, you over there with the curly hair." The mentioned boy nervously pointed towards himself. "You've been muttering this whole time. It's distracting. If you're here on a pleasure trip, then you should leave immediately." Poor Izuku just covered his mouth and mumbled his apologies. Naruto wanted to defend his friend, but Present Mick decided to intervene before he could. Okay, examinee number 7111, Present Mick said, trying to calm down the snickering crowd. "Thanks for the great message," he said, giving a thumbs up before the final robot appeared on the screen. "The 4th type of villain is worth 0 points. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. A villain worth 0 points. Why would they even put something like that into the test? He decided to let it go and listen further, so maybe it could be explained. That guy's an obstacle, so to speak. There's one in every battle center, an obstacle that will go crazy in narrow spaces. It's not impossible to defeat, but there's no reason to defeat it either." He put his hand out towards the crow. "I recommend that you listeners try to avoid it." Naruto narrowed his eyes at that. A villain who should be avoided. A hero running away at the face of danger. What kind of hero does that? If the hero ran away, then what would happen to the people that were close by and couldn't get away? There is more to this than what they are saying, he thought, trying to find out the real deal about the 0 points villain. Naruto stood in front of the group of examinees behind him. There was a large door in front of him which would be opened at any moment now, and the exam would start. Naruto took a deep breath to calm down his nerves. I'm going to just destroy any villain that comes near me, no biggie, he thought, taking deep breaths. Okay, start. President Mick shouted out as everyone suddenly blinked, not prepared at the sudden start. What's wrong? There are no countdowns in real fights. Run, run. The die has been cast, you know. Naruto didn't need to be told twice as he jumped forwards, running inside the battleground, fully intent on becoming first and acing the exam. He heard all the shouts behind him and looked back, seeing them running as fast they could. Naruto turned back forwards, running in the empty city searching for the villain robots. He was ahead of the group behind him as he had recovered much faster than the others. He did not have to wait long when he saw a 2-point robot in an alley coming towards him. He smirked in anticipation. He lunged forwards and punched the robot with his hand lit ablaze, using his quirk ability. It shattered the robot like it was nothing. That's 2 points, he thought, dashing away once again to find more robots. After that, it didn't long for Naruto to rack up points as the robots were not durable and you could easily take them out even with physical strength alone. Naruto's thoughts then turned back towards the villain they were supposed to avoid. It boggled his mind that a hero would run away from a villain. He had yet to see any of those giant ones, and they had said that there was one each in every battle center, and theirs hadn't shown up yet. His thoughts were broken when he saw an orange-haired girl taking care of a 1-point robot with a giant hand, but she didn't see that there was another one behind the girl about to attack her. Naruto moved before he could think, and he was there as fast as he could get there. Just as the robot was about to make contact, Naruto picked her up and dashed away from the villain with a big jump, using his enhanced athleticism. Itsuka had just destroyed a villain, but before she could do anything she was suddenly snatched by another contestant. She was a bit startled at the sudden action and looked up to see who it was, and she felt like she recognized the person from somewhere. He had golden blonde spiky hair that was blowing cause of their jump. She looked back and saw where she previously stood and saw a 1-point villain in her place. She looked towards the blonde with a grateful look for saving her. Naruto gently dropped the girl back to her feet. Be careful next time, he said with a smile before he ran towards the villain and easily destroyed the villain with his fire. Hey, wait. Itsuka's shout fell on deaf ears as Naruto was already out of her way and gunning towards more villains. She looked a bit miffed at that. She wanted to thank that guy for saving her when almost everyone was focusing on getting points, but before she could do that, he was gone already. She shook her head and decided to focus on the exam. She could thank him another time knowing he would pass. He looked strong if his quirk was anything to judge by. The teachers, except for President Mick, alongside the principal of UA, were watching all the battles take place in a separate room. They were all looking at the prospects fighting and racking up points. They were all happy seeing some of the contestants saving the others from villains. Looks like there are lots of great upcoming hero prospects, a teacher said with a smile, looking at a boy with glasses who rather easily shattered a robot with a kick. Indeed, another teacher said with a nod, although some of the are a bit too aggressive, he commented with a sweat drop, making them look at Bakugo, who was cackling madly standing among destroyed robots in the streets. They shook their heads seeing the sight. Looks like someone needed to tone it down a bit, but their attention was caught by the gorgeous woman in the room who giggled upon seeing another blonde student taking care of the villains as easily as the other two. Not only is he very heroic, strong but also handsome, she said with a mildly sultry voice as she licked her lips in anticipation. Though they were impressed by the contestant, they deadpanned at her seeing her ogle a 15-year-old student, but she merely ignored them in favor of watching the person who had caught her attention. She wondered if it would be possible to get him as a sidekick for her agency. It shouldn't be too surprising, after all he was trained by Hawks. Someone trained personally by a hero that big. Hawks, huh? That's interesting. All Might, who was currently in his skinny form, was looking at Midoriya, who was pacing around frantically in Battle Center B, trying to find a villain so he could score some points. He was not showing any signs of concerns on the outside, but he did panic a bit on the inside. But he had full faith in his successor to pass the entrance exam. He did glance over in mild interest seeing Naruto. It didn't surprise him to see the kid doing a very good job in this exam as he was trained by the number 3 hero. But no, that's not why he was interested in him. It was because he was among the heroes when Hawks had announced the information about him. He had forgotten about him after that meeting, but seeing him now again had piqued his interest again. He would look forward to meeting the boy who was found with no information at all 9 years ago. I have 60 points, and there is only 1 minute left, Naruto thought, running in the streets that were littered with destroyed robots and contestants who were tired after using their powers. Naruto knew he would pass when had hit 50 points. This exam surely had rescue points as well alongside villain points. It made sense, after it all it was the hero course they were competing for. The written exam portion wouldn't be a problem for Naruto. Naruto hated written exams because no matter what he did and no matter how good his score was, the academy teachers in Konoha wouldn't care, but in here it was different. The teachers praised him along with students, and that made it all the studying he had done worth it. He would ace the written exam too and join the UA Hero course. The giant explosion made him stop his thoughts about the exams. Looking towards the sounds, he saw lots of smoke and debris of buildings falling. He narrowed his eyes at the sight and started going towards the direction. Once he arrived, his eyes widened a bit at the sight. In front of him stood the 0-point villain that they were advised to avoid. It was big, as large as most of the buildings in the battle center. Looking down, he saw everyone running away from the villain. He instantly understood when he saw the sight. He smirked as he figured out the intent of the 0-points villain. What hope is there left for the people when the hero runs away in the face of danger, he muttered as he crouched down a bit, making most contestants look at him in shock and in some cases like he was an idiot. Unknown to Naruto, his green-haired friend, Midoriya, was currently also preparing his attack against the same kind of villain. The teachers were grinning seeing the boy preparing an attack against the obstacle in the battle center. They were happy surprised seeing someone figure out the true meaning of the test. Their grin widened even further when they saw Midoriya doing the same as All Might grinned seeing his successor. Naruto clenched his right hand into a fist. His position still the same as he prepared to leap at the villain. Fire started swirling around his entire arm as Naruto leaped at the same time as his friend Midoriya. Both the contestants in the battle centers gaped at the two jumping towards the giant robot. The fire around Naruto flickered between the color yellow and red before it remained bright red. Naruto was finally at face height against the robot, although he kept some distance from him. He cocked his right hand back and punched forwards, shouting his attack as Midoriya did the same. Heiken. Smosh. The giant robot in Battle Center B was destroyed by the devastating punch landed by the freckled boy as everyone gaped in awe at his power and the destruction. Meanwhile in Battle Center C. When Naruto announced his attack, a gargantuan amount of fire shot out from him and became a fist the size of the robot's entire upper half as it made its way towards Naruto's target. It made contact, and explosion boomed as the giant was shattered and melted by the destructive attack of the blonde. The teachers were all cheering and smiling seeing the two boys completely destroying their target and saving multiple contestants. Itsuka, who was watching the event off to the side, had wide eyes with a slack jaw, seeing the person who had saved her previously get rid of the obstacle. She was silent for a couple of seconds before she chuckled. She now remembered where she recognized him from. He was the same guy from the news when a sludge villain had kidnapped a junior high schooler and two other students had jumped in to save him before All Might finally arrived and saved everyone there with defeating the villain. Definitely passing through the exams. Naruto landed on the ground just as President Mick shouted for everyone to stop. He smiled to himself, very satisfied with his work and knowing he had passed with flying colors. Now he just needed to do the written portion and it was done. They were called to go and finally do the written exam. Naruto followed the others towards the room and quietly sat down and filled in the paper as much as he could. After some time, he was done and was free to go. It wasn't that hard to be honest, he thought, thinking about the entirety of the entrance exam. He was sure he would get through. With the exam done, Naruto went back to get some rest because it was one hell of a day in his opinion. He paused for a second. Maybe I should visit Izuku during the week to see how he's doing and ask how the exam went, he told himself. He nodded his head and told himself that visiting his friend would be the first thing on his list tomorrow morning. Izuku Midoriya was pacing around his room. He was a nervous wreck ever since the entrance exam of UA. He hadn't been able to contact All Might, but that didn't stop him from continuing his exercises. It became second nature to him by now to work out. I know I passed the written exam, but I got 0 points on the practical, he muttered in a nervous tone. His entire body was almost shaking out of nervousness. Izuku. His mother's shout snapped him out of his state and his shoulders slumped. No use fretting about it now. I should just wait till the letter comes home, he thought before he addressed his mother's call. He got out of his room and saw his mother talking to his friend, Naruto, at the door. Your friend Naruto is here to see you, Inko said towards her son. She smiled at the blonde boy. In her opinion, he was an amazing boy who was great for her son because he supported her son when others didn't. Even she didn't believe her son could become a hero, but this boy still encouraged him. Nakin? Izuku asked, a bit surprised at the sudden visit. Sup Izuku, you got any free time? Naruto asked his friend. Yes, you want to go train again? He asked the blonde, who nodded with a grin. Yep, we're going to spar once again, Naruto said with a grin that unnerved the green-haired boy. He had trained with Naruto sometimes during these last 10 months. Usually he was joined during his run, but sometimes both of them would spar and he would always be sore afterwards. But it was still good for him since fighting against him taught him a lot while also improving the control over his quirk. So, he told him to wait so he can get dressed and ran back towards his room, leaving Naruto waiting at the door with a curious expression. Why was he looking so nervous, the blonde thought inquisitively. Could it be about the exam? His thoughts came to an end when Midoriya came back running with a tracksuit on. They both decided to start off their workout by doing a run. "So how did the exam go for you?" Naruto asked. He was dressed in grey sportswear. His companion faltered a bit by the question, making Naruto confirm his theory. He faltered for a second, trying to find the right words. "I passed the written portion, but I got 0 points on the practical one." His tone was full of sadness. "What?" Izuku nodded his head. "As they were still running, I was a nervous wreck and couldn't find any robots till the end, where I found the 0-point villain." Naruto perked up at that. "There was a girl stuck and she couldn't get away, so I destroyed it, completely saving the girl, but there was no time left for me to get points." Naruto was surprised, to say the least. "You actually destroyed the 0-point robot too?" he asked, still not believing it. "Yes, wait, too." He looked to see his friend smirking at him. "You destroyed it too in your battle center?" Naruto puffed his chest in pride of himself. "Yeah, I did," he chuckled, "and here I thought I was the only one who had discovered the true meaning of that test." That comment got Izuku to completely stop and look at Naruto with shock. "What do you mean, true meaning?" the freckled boy asked his friend, who came back running to him. "I just did that because to save that girl." Naruto raised an eyebrow at his shock. "You mean you passed that test without even knowing that it was a test?" he said before chuckling. "I shouldn't be too surprised by that." He put a hand on the shaking boy's shoulders, calming him down. He grinned. "Izuku, let me ask you something. How can a hero course not accept someone who is willing to throw away everything in order to save someone in danger?" he said as the gears in Midoriya's head started clicking and his eyes widened to epic proportions once he figured it out. "That means there is a good chance I will be accepted," he exclaimed in happiness. Naruto nodded, taking his hands off his shoulders as Izuku was beaming. Naruto suddenly froze, remembering something. "Wait, Izuku," he said, stopping the happy boy from his victory dance. "You said you destroyed that robot, but how? That thing was as big as most of the buildings there." Naruto asked with a frown and completely duped as to how his friend managed to do that. How did he even overlook that fact? Midoriya froze at his question. Cursing himself for the slip. "What do I do? Should I tell him the truth or say something else?" He was very good friends with Naruto and he didn't want to lie to him, but he also didn't want to tell him the truth right now. So, he decided to tell him a lie. "I actually managed to unlock my quirk before the exam and was training to get used to it," Hen luckily answered without stuttering, as Naruto looked absolutely shocked by that. "So that's why he sometimes was so tired at school." Naruto thought, a bit betrayed that something like this wasn't told to him by his friend, but his happiness for him overrode that. "A quirk? Really?" he asked, getting a nod of confirmation. "Wow. Come on, you have to show me." "We have to spar," Naruto said excitedly, getting a look of horror from Izuku. Naruto was absolutely crazy when it came to sparring. During training he was one hell of a sadistic bastard and his stamina didn't really help against that. Izuku gulped as Naruto dragged him to a secluded spot where they could spar, all the while Midoriya just screamed in terror. Screaming for help, but no one said anything. Inko suddenly paused in her house, feeling as if she had betrayed her son, before shrugging and going on with her day, not knowing anything about her son being abused in a spar. The past week had gone by pretty fast for Naruto. He had kept up with his training and sparred against Izuku. Speaking about his friend, he still wondered how he suddenly got his quirk. Why didn't it activate much earlier? Why now of all times? The timing was impeccable if he honest, and he was sure there was much more to it than Izuku let on, but right now he didn't know what. He had gotten the letter from the Number Hero school. A teacher at the school popped out of the letter in a hologram and had told him that he passed because of 60 villain points, along with 40 points he had gotten for the true test. Alongside those points he had 15 rescue points, which led to a total of 115 points, making him the student with the most points in the history of the exam. That was something he took pride in. To already hold a record in UA without even attending a class was quite nice in his opinion, but he didn't really let it get to his head. Just then he heard a bell chime. "Welcome, how can I?" He froze upon seeing the sight in front of him. There were a couple of girls all talking to each other, but that's not why he was suddenly frozen. It was because he saw the same girl he hadn't seen for 9 years now. She was obviously taller now, but still not as tall as him. Her hair had gotten longer, but she still kept that spiky ponytail hairstyle, along with that large strand of hair hanging on the right side of her face. Her face had turned from cute to beautiful in his opinion, along with her body, and he couldn't help but blush at seeing her face and the amazing body she had. "Momo?" The mentioned girl was surprised to suddenly hear her name being called, but when she looked up she was even more surprised and shocked seeing him after so long. "Naruto, is that you?" she asked with a hopeful voice. The boy smiled widely as he stepped out of the counter and went to stand in front of the surprised and hopeful girl. "Of course, it's me," he answered as her shock expression turned into one of completely joy. "It's been so long." "It has," she answered with a smile. "I didn't know you worked in this place," she said, looking at the clothing he wore. Naruto sheepishly smiled and scratched his head. "Yeah, I've been working in this place for a couple of months," he said, nodding his head. Meanwhile, the other girls were left standing there watching the two interacting with each other. Someone coughed, gaining their attention as both Naruto and Momo looked towards them. Momo had a look of realization cross on her face as she blushed a bit in embarrassment. She was so into the reunion between her and Naruto that she completely forgot about the others. Coughing into her hand to get rid of the blush, she looked back towards her blonde friend and gestured towards the girls. "Naruto, these are my friends from my school." She looked back towards the girls. "This my," she paused for a second before continuing, "my friend from my childhood, Naruto." "Hi girls," he said, flashing them a smile with a wave. As Momo said, "My name is Naruto." He introduced himself with a small bow of his head. "Oh, and sorry not for addressing you sooner," he apologized, scratching his head. "It's just that I hadn't seen Momo in a long time, so it was a bit of surprise seeing her here," he explained, while Momo nodded her with a sheepish expression on her face. The girls giggled at him, seeing how handsome and humble he was. "It's no problem at all." They waved it off as Naruto smiled wider. "Now what can I get you girls?" he asked, leading them towards a table as he took their orders. All throughout the rest of the time he continued with his work and occasionally took a glance at Momo's table, seeing some of the girls and Momo doing the same thing as him. "I've got to ask her phone number this time, and also if we could catch up after I'm done with work," he thought, continuing on his work. He sighed, glancing at the clock, seeing that there was still 1 hour left in his shift. Thankfully, his attention was soon gathered by his crush, who was now standing in front of the counter looking at him. "Oh Momo, did you need anything?" he asked her. "Yeah, we were waving at you to come over, but you didn't answer, so I just came here instead." "Oh, sorry about that," he quickly apologized to her. She merely smiled at him. "It's no problem actually, this gives me a chance to ask you if you wanted to catch up after your work," she asked, while Naruto looked surprised for a bit before nodding his head. "That's fine with me, actually I wanted to ask you something too," he said, pulling up his phone from his pocket, getting a curious look from his crush. "I had wanted to contact you during the years, but I didn't have any way to do it, so can I get your phone number?" he asked with a small blush on his face. Momo blinked at that before smiling and gave Naruto her phone number, with him doing the same. "Still can't believe it's been 9 years since our promise," the girl said, putting away her phone as the blonde boy nodded his head. "Speaking of the promise," he said with a grin, "I got accepted into UA. What about you?" he asked. Curiosity and hopefulness in his tone. "Me too," she said eagerly. "Which class did you get into?" she asked, hoping they were in the same class together. "Class 1. And you?" "No way. Me too." She beamed in joy. "Yes," both shouted inside their minds, with a chibi version of them dancing in joy and victory. "Momo, are you done already?" one of her friends shouted towards her, stopping them both from their conversation. Momo looked back towards her friends. "Almost," she said back before turning towards the laughing blonde. "I guess we can continue this after I'm done then." She smiled. "I'd like that." She turned around, walking towards her table. "Wait." She stopped and turned around upon hearing Naruto call towards her. She rose and eyebrowed him. "You forgot about your order," he reminded her as she made an O expression and laughed a bit at her forgetfulness when talking to the blonde as Naruto chuckled along with her. After placing down her order and her friends, she went back to her table. Sitting down, she saw everyone looking at her expectantly, making her arch a brow. "What?" "Oh, what us one said, what took you so long?" she asked. "Oh, we were just exchanging numbers and I asked if he wanted to catch up after all these years," Momo explained, getting giggles from her friends. "You have to tell us how to, Matt, because I haven't seen you act like that towards other boys," a brown-haired girl asked. "Yeah, come on, spill it," another girl chimed in as the others pressured her on. Momo sighed at their eagerness and started her explanation. "We met when we were 6 years old and both of us got along really well with each other. Back then I didn't have a phone and he didn't either, but we also didn't know where each of us lived, so we couldn't contact each other, but we did make a promise to each other." She smiled at the thought of her promise with Naruto. "A promise?" Momo nodded her head, still smiling. "We promised to meet each other back at UA and become heroes together." "Oh, that is so cute," the brown-haired girl gushed at her. "Romantic too," another one said, getting the black-haired girl to gain a blush on her cheeks. "It's nothing like that. Just an innocent promise between two friends," Momo reassured them, but they merely ignored her while they were giggling, getting a miffed look on Momo's face. At the counter, Naruto was looking at their table in confusion, hearing constant giggles. It didn't help that when they looked between him and Momo, their giggles would increase and become louder. He shrugged it off as a girl's thing and went back to his work and checking the clock and hoped that his shift would end faster. Finally, after the 1 hour was done, Naruto went back into the locker room of the employees and changed back into his clothes that consisted of a simple white shirt with a jacket on top of it, black jeans and sneakers to top it off. Getting out of the locker room, slung his bag over his shoulders and walked towards Momo and saw that she was alone and her friends were gone. "Hey Momo," he greeted her with a smile. "The girls are gone already?" he asked her as she smiled at him. She nodded. They still had some homework to do, so they went ahead. Naruto nodded at her as they made their way towards the exit. "Oh, by the way, why were they giggling and looking at me so much?" Naruto asked her curiously. That got her to remind of their teasing, and she blushed while avoiding eye contact with him. "It's nothing, so don't worry about it," she waved it off, making Naruto look at her, confused at her sudden weird behavior. "Alright then, let's go, I know just the place we can hang out," he said, exiting his workplace along with her as they walked towards their destination and talked about their quirks, school and their past years. They were so engrossed with their talks that they didn't even notice the sun going down and the streetlights coming to life. Momo's phone suddenly buzzed, interrupting their conversation as she checked to see a message from her mother. She saw the time and was a bit surprised that they were talking for so long. She texted her mother back, saying she's on her way, and put her phone away to look at her friend. "I've got to go, Naruto," she said with an apologetic look. "We should do this again sometime," she said as Naruto smiled and eagerly replied. "Of course, I'd like that a lot," he said. "I'll see you at school and at class, then next time," she nodded in agreement, seeing as it wasn't much longer now till UA classes started. They said their goodbyes to each other and went their own ways with large grins on their faces. Both of them were very happy about not only their reunion, but also knowing they would both be in the same class for the next 3 years. "Calm down, geez, how can you have this much energy in the morning?" Kigo Tamaki, or otherwise known as Hawks, groaned in tiredness, while the blonde in front of him at the table was eagerly chowing down his food. "I'm just really excited," he answered with a very happy tone. "It's the first day of my 3 years at UA. The school I've been wanting to get into for years." He looked at him with wide, happy and sparkling eyes. Hawks chuckled amusedly at him. Yes, you get to go play and prepare yourself for becoming a hero with those kiddies and your girlfriend," he smirked, seeing Naruto's face turn red from his teasing. "She's not my girlfriend," he shouted, denying the claim while glaring at him. "Oh yeah?" he said with the boy nodding. He smirked at him. "Then how do you explain you staying awake till 2 a.m. talking to her?" he asked and laughed, seeing his face get even redder. Naruto scowled at him while grumbling about stupid and dumb teasing brothers. He couldn't deny what he said because it was true. He was talking to her almost all night long before they both fell asleep when they were talking. "Did you say something?" Hawks asked, getting his laughter under control once he heard him grumbling in low tone. "Nothing." The number 3 hero hummed skeptically before standing up. "Well, I've got to do work," he yawned and put his hands in his pockets before walking towards their kitchen window. "Good luck on your first day. I'm off." He gave him, the younger boy, a salute before flying off with his wings through the window. "At least use the door," Naruto shouted towards him, getting no answer before he sighed and started putting the dishes away. "Lazy idiot, leaving me with doing the dishes," he sniffed with a sniff, all the while complaining and doing the chores. Once he was done, he got a notification from his phone and checked to see that it was a message from Momo asking if he was already at school. He glanced at the clock to see he still had time. "Is she already at school this early?" he asked, texting her back. He quickly got dressed in his new uniform, which consisted of a long-sleeve button-up white shirt, a gray jacket with blue-green stripes, and a red tie with dark blue-green pants to top it off. "Man, these uniforms are a bit too stuffy," he complained, loosening his uniform a bit before taking his backpack and slung it around his shoulders. He made his way towards the front door and exited while closing it. "I wish I could just fly and go to school that way, but no, I can't do that because I'm not a pro hero yet," Naruto grumbled while making his way towards the train station to catch his train and get to school on time. Naruto was making his way through the UA high school corridors towards his class. Class 1A, but the school was way too big and it took him some time to find it. But he finally found the correct place and promptly sweat dropped when he arrived. There stood his good friend Izuku Midoriya, nervously standing before the huge door of their classroom while talking to himself. "Izuku, you really need to stop fretting over small things," he said, getting the green-haired boy to squeak in surprise. "Nakin, don't scare me like that," Midoriya said, sweating a bit from the sudden arrival of his blonde friend, but Naruto just laughed at successful jump he got on him. "Come on, let's go inside then," Naruto said, going forwards and opening the door. They were greeted by the sight of multiple students sitting down on their seats already, but 2 students seemed to be arguing with each other. "Of course, it's Bakugo who's already causing problems," he said with a sigh, while at the same time garnering everyone's attention, including Bakugo and the boy who he was arguing with. He recognized him as the guy who had asked a question during the entrance test. He came walking towards them. "Good morning," he greeted them as Izuku started sweating nervously. "I am from Same Private Academy." "My." "The guy from the entrance exam who had a stick up his butt," Naruto said, interrupting his introduction. He nodded his head sagely. "Yeah, we remember." Naruto did not pay much attention to him, not seeing the poor guy looking absolutely broken by the description used for him. The class was holding back laughter from that before Momo giggled a bit and looked towards Naruto. "Naruto, over here," she called out to him, getting him to look in her direction, and he instantly beamed seeing her while making his way towards her, ignoring everything in his path. "Momo." He greeted her with a huge smile. "I'm sorry for not coming here earlier," he said sheepishly with an apologetic smile. She waved it off as Naruto sat down on the free seat in front of her and delved into another conversation, all the while ignoring the curious looks they were getting from their classmates. "Oh, that curly hair. You're the plain-looking one." A bubbly voice made their attention snap back towards the door, where a girl with short brown hair was talking to Midoriya while swinging her fist in a comical manner. "Poor Izuku doesn't know how to deal with this," Naruto thought, chuckling at the flustered look on his friend's face. He then looked towards another person from his previous school and rolled his eyes, seeing him giving Midoriya the stink eye. Bakugo caught his gaze and glared at him while Naruto glared right back at him. "Go somewhere else if you want to play at being friends," a monotone voice said, making them look over to see a person in a sleeping bag lying down at the door. Naruto blinked at the sight of a man who looked like he could fall asleep any moment, and sweat dropped seeing him pull out some juice before drinking it. He looked over towards Momo to see she had the same expression as him. "I think that might be our homeroom teacher," he whispered to her. "I think so too," she whispered back with a firm nod. "I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Izawa. Nice to meet you." He introduced himself with a dead look in the same monotone voice. "Homeroom teacher," muttered the class with some surprise. The teacher merely ignored them. "It's kind of sudden, but put this on and go out onto the field," the teacher continued and pulled out a uniform that had dark blue pants with white vertical lines and dark blue short sleeve shirt with white lines, that for the letter U and A. "How many more stuff does he have in that bag?" Naruto mentally questioned before shaking his head, deciding it wasn't worth it for his sanity, following the class and taking the blue uniform and making their way outside. Naruto, now dressed up along with everyone in the class, were standing outside in some sort of field. They were just told that they had to do a quirk assessment test right now. "What about the entrance ceremony? The orientation?" The bubbly brown-haired girl from before muttering, frowning at her teacher. "If you're going to become a hero, you don't have time for such leisurely events," their teacher responded, getting murmurs from the class. "UA's selling point is how unrestricted its school traditions are." He turned around looking at the class. "That's also how the teachers run their classes." "This guy's the opposite of Hawks," Naruto thought inwardly, seeing his serious gaze. "You kids have been doing these since junior high, too, right?" He pulled out a phone device showing some tests on the screen, physical fitness tests where you weren't allowed to use your quirks. The country still uses averages taken from results from students not using their quirks. It's not rational. "Well, the Ministry of Education is procrastinating." His gaze turned towards Naruto. "Naruto, you finished at the top of the practical exam, right?" he asked him. Bakugo glared daggers at Naruto for taking the number 1 spot while he was ignored, getting him to grind his teeth in anger for being ignored. The class looked at him nervously, seeing his behavior. "Yes," Naruto answered with a nod while stepping forward a bit. "In junior high, what was your best result for the softball throw?" 78 meters. "Why? Do I have to use my quirk this time?" he asked, getting a smirk in return. "You catch on quick," he nodded. "Go to that circle and you can do whatever you want as long as you stay in the circle." He threw a ball towards his student, who caught it and made his way towards the circle. Naruto gripped the ball tightly in his hand. The class and the teacher watched anxiously to see what he was going to do. Naruto put his left foot forwards and brought his right hand back to prepare his throw. "All right, here we go," he said, and swung his right hand while adding his fire ability to it to give it as much boost as possible. Instead of red fire this time, yellow fire exploded along with the ball, which was sent skyrocketing high towards the sky. The heterochromic-eyed boy with a burn scar on the left side of his face, along with evenly split hair between two colors, white on his right side and crimson red on his left, narrowed his eyes and had a small scowl on his face, seeing the element he hated the most being utilized by his fellow student. They all watched the ball zooming through the sky before it fell back on the ground far away from them. "Know your own maximum first," Izawa said. "That is the most rational way to form the foundation of a hero." He turned around with his smirk still there, showing them the result of his throw. The screen showed a distance of 1,000 meters, shocking them all. "Whoa, 1,000 meters," a boy with spiky red hair said with a shocked and odd expression. "This looks so fun," a pink-haired and pink-skinned girl with 2 horns said in an eager tone, clapping her hands. The class joined her in expressing their eagerness for the test. "It looks fun, huh?" Izawa muttered ominously, bringing their eager attitude to a halt. "You have 3 years to become a hero. Will you have an attitude like that when you become one?" he asked, obviously not liking what they were saying. He smiling almost cruelly at them, getting them to tense up. "All right. Whoever comes in last place in all 8 tests will be judged to have no potential and will be punished with expulsion." His declaration was met with silence before the class except for Momo, Naruto, Bakugo and the heterochromic-eyed boy exploded into shock, shouting their arguments at their homeroom teacher. "There is absolutely no way this is true," Naruto said, narrowing his eyes at the pro hero. "It's a good way to bring out everyone's potential. I'll give him that. But a test on the first day already? And the person with the worst score will be expelled. That's not fair." Once again the brown-haired girl argued in a nervous and worried tone. "Natural disasters, big accidents, and selfish villains. Calamities whose time or place can't be predicted. Japan is covered with unfairness. Heroes are the ones who reverse those situations. If you wanted to go talk with your friends at Mickey D's after school, too bad. For the next 3 years, UA will do all it can to give you one hardship after another." Aizawa countered her argument wisely, while the class paid close attention. "Go beyond. Plus ultra," he recounted UA's saying, "overcome it with all you've got." The class's shock and worry slowly turned into that of a determined one as they all prepared for their turns to throw the ball. Naruto made his way towards Momo, who smiled at him. "I didn't expect for you to throw it that far," she said towards him. Naruto smirked at her. "Well, maybe you shouldn't have underestimated me then. By the way, how are you going to yours?" he asked her curiously. Just then her name was called up, making her look towards him. "You'll see," was all she said. Naruto watched carefully as she unbuttoned her shirt, showing off her skin and her wearing a sport bra. He blushed at seeing that, but then heard someone giggling as a pervert, making him instantly glare at a short person with purple balls on his head. "The hell?" he thought, looking at him incredulously before shaking his head and glared at him to stop his leering at Momo. He turned back towards her and gawked, seeing her create a cannon to shoot the ball and get a distance of 700 meters. She walked back towards him and smiled, seeing his expression. "Okay, I did not expect that." He shook his head and smiled warmly. "That was awesome, Momo." She felt her cheeks heat up and turn red from his praise, while she avoided eye contact with him on instinct. "Thank you, Naruto," she said towards her friend, who continued smiling while the short boy from before starting cursing him. Meanwhile the girls were giggling to themselves, seeing the interaction between the two oblivious friends. They continued watching as Bakugo got 705.2 meters on his throw. Naruto sent him a smug grin for being able to best him in this test, while his fellow blonde growled at him. "He doesn't seem to really like you," Momo commented, seeing Bakugo glaring at Naruto. Naruto sighed. "He's always been like this. We both compete with each other and he's mad that I got number 1 on the entrance exam and scored higher in this test." She nodded in understanding while they went back to watching the others do their test. Naruto chuckled, seeing the brown-haired girl, who was named Ichako Uraraka, got infinite on hers thanks to her quick. They finally got to the last one, which was Izuku, who nervously made his way towards the circle. "Come on, Izuku, show everyone what you're capable of," he mentally said, seeing him prepare to throw the ball. Lines of energy started becoming visible on his arms. The same ones Naruto saw when they sparred, where Izuku had missed him but got a lot of wind power behind that. He knew the ball would go far, but sweat dropped when he saw it only go not even above 50 meters. "Seems like he can't control his quirk," Momo said in a sympathetic tone. "Yeah, I sparred against him once," Naruto said, surprising her. She did not know that they were friends. "His quirk is powerful, but he gets injured every time he uses it. I don't think his body is able to handle the current power," he speculated, as poor Midoriya was getting chewed out by their homeroom teacher. They both saw him getting told he won't be able to become a hero with his power. "He's wrong," Naruto said, shaking his head, making the girl next to look at him for an explanation. "I've known him for over 3 years now, and he's one of the people who has what's needed to become a hero." He turned towards her and smiled, remembering the entrance exam. "During the entrance exam, there was a supposed obstacle villain who we were supposed to avoid," he said, accentuating obstacle villain and avoid, which Momo instantly understood. "I heard that he had destroyed one of those to save some of the other contestants." "Exactly," Naruto said with a smirk. "Everyone else ran away in the face of danger, but he didn't." He turned back towards Midoriya, who was going back to the circle and preparing his throw. "How can people have hope in a hero who runs in the danger of a villain? A hero is supposed to save people without a second thought." His smirk turned into a big grin, seeing his friend throw the ball and not getting his arm injured, but only his index finger. "Like I said, he has what it takes to be a hero." Momo understood now and smiled at her friend. "I didn't know you could give speeches like that." Naruto just grinned at her. "Well, a hero has to be able to inspire people, right?" he asked, getting a giggle from her. They missed Bakugo raging about finding Izuku's quirk because of their talk. 50-meter dash. Naruto did not really use his quirk but used the passive ability that his quirk gave him, which was his enhanced athletics. He got a time of 4.80 seconds for that. Naruto sniffed indignantly when Bakugo sent him a smug look, this time when he was faster by 0.67 seconds. "Should have just used my wings," he thought, regretting not using that part of his quirk. Grip strength. This test went well for Naruto, seeing as he regularly worked out in his free time, allowing him to get 70 kilograms, but fell second to another student called Mizo Shoji. Momo had 45 kilograms, which was the highest among the females. Mizo is a tall, muscular young man with pale gray hair swept forwards, covering most of his face, and bent downwards at almost a right angle over his eye. He has 6 arms, all attached to each other by a web of skin. Naruto got along well with him even if he got higher than him. Standing long jump. Naruto cleared the entire sandbox using his fire to propel him forward. Repeated side steps. Naruto came second using his natural athleticism and was behind his classmate, Mineta, who he had found out was a huge pervert. He used his quirk to bounce himself side to side with placing those sticky purple balls at both ends. This sounds suslamao. Sit-ups. Naruto paired up with Momo and easily got 45 sit-ups in a minute, which was the highest in the class for the males. While Momo got 35, which was the highest for the females. Seated toe touch. Naruto was easily able to reach his toes thanks to his body being flexible. His classmate Momo was able to replicate him, which he found out that Momo seemed to be very flexible. Distance run. Naruto shone in this test and showed why he was the best in the class in physical test, thanks to his athleticism and stamina coming in first and blowing the competition away by a mile. Izuku was panting standing next to Naruto, who was only sweating unlike the others. "I can never understand how good your stamina is," the panting freckled boy managed to wheeze out. "I agree," Momo said, also panting as she wiped away some sweat. "Your stamina is ridiculous." Naruto chuckled at their complaints about his stamina. "You guys just need to work on it more," he advised them with a smile. "I know that," Izuku retorted before he saw Chako and looked back to them. "I'll see you both later, Yayoi Rozu-san, Nakin," he said, running towards Naruto. Naruto watched him go with a smile before he heard giggling next to him. He looked at the black-haired girl next to him in confusion when she started laughing. "Nakin, huh?" she said in teasing tone while trying to hold back her laughter, seeing his face get red in embarrassment. "Ugh, he won't stop calling me that no matter how many times I tell him to," he groaned into his hands. Momo stopped laughing and patted his back. "Don't worry, I think it's cute." Her laughter returned in full force, seeing his entire face and body go red. They both ran back to their class once they saw their teacher call them over to show the results of the tests. "Okay, I'll quickly tell you the results. The total is simply the marks you got from each test." He clicked the device and everyone saw a hologram appear in which the results were shown. Naruto Uzumaki. Momo Yayoi Rozu. Shoto Todoroki. Katsuki Bakugo. The rest is the same as in canon. Naruto grinned widely seeing him being number 1, but frowned seeing that Midoriya was at the last place. He took a glance towards his friend to see him absolutely heartbroken and wanted to console him, but remembered that he wasn't going to get expelled. "By the way, I was lying about the expulsion," Aizawa said, simply getting the entire class to go silent and blink at him, except for Naruto and Momo. "It was a rational deception to draw out the upper limits of your quirks," the teacher said with a grin seeing their faces. "What?" The silence was broken as they all shouted in shock and surprise. "Of course, that was a lie." Momo started looking at them. "It should have been obvious if you just thought it through," she said, as it was the most obvious thing in the world. Naruto nodded vehemently in agreement while the others just hung their heads. Naruto laughed seeing the expression on Midoriya's face. He went up to his friend and patted him on the back as the teacher came towards them. "Midoriya," he said, getting the students' attention, "have the old lady fix you in the nurse's office. Tomorrow will be packed with even more rigorous tests. Prepare yourself," he advised before leaving the place. "Welp, you better go and get that healed up before the next class starts." Midoriya nodded his head and made his way towards the nurse's office. The rest of the class went back to get dressed before the next class gets started. The next few hours went by and nothing of interest really happened for Naruto. They had English with Present Mick. It was quite boring if he had to be honest. It was like junior high. He thought there would be a lot more action in a hero course. Naruto sat down and ate his lunch together with Momo, Izuku, Achako and the boy with glasses who had introduced himself as Ida when he got the chance. "I did not know they would a pro hero for even cooking here," Naruto said as he deadpanned at his green-haired friend who was gushing at the cook of UA. "That's UA for you," Achako said, digging into the food. Ida was trying to calm down the wild fanboy by swinging his arm like robot. Naruto just chuckled at everyone. "Hey, it's you." The voice made them all turn around to see a girl around their own age, with orange ginger hair that was tied into a high ponytail on the left side of her head. She was currently looking at Naruto, who had a confused expression not knowing or remembering her. "Ah, sorry, do I know you?" Naruto asked sheepishly, rubbing his head. "You don't remember?" she asked, getting him to shake his head. "Really? I was at the same battle center as you," she reminded him as the switch in Naruto's head flipped and his face turned into that of recognition. "Oh yeah, now I remember." He nodded his head before sheepishly smiling and sending her an apologetic look. "Sorry about that. There are a lot of new faces here." "No problem. I just wanted to thank you for saving me during that test. She thanked him, getting him as others looked at Naruto surprised. Oh yes, my name is Itsuka Kendo. I'm from class 1B. She introduced herself towards the 4 students. Oh, you're from the other class of the hero course, Momo said with a smile. It's nice to meet you. I'm Naruto's friend, Momo Yaoirozu from class 1. Itsuka smiled back at her as the others introduced themselves while Naruto asked her if she wanted to sit with them, which she gladly accepted. So how did meet Naruto-kun, Itsuka-san? Ida asked the orange-haired girl. As I said earlier, we were both in the same battle center, and while I was fighting a robot, another one sneaked up behind me when I wasn't looking and could have gotten hurt, which could have made me fail. She then sent Naruto another thankful smiles, getting the boy to rub his head, but thankfully Naruto-kun here managed to help me before the robot got me. Naruto smiled. My body moved on its own, so yeah, Naruto chuckled, not noticing Izuku freeze up at his words. How are you liking the hero core so far? Momo asked her with a smile, as the two got rather well along with each other, delving into a conversation about their dreams. Everyone giggled and teased both Naruto and Momo when they told them of their dreams and the promise between each other, getting the two to turn red and sputter. When lunch ended, they ended up back in their classroom waiting for their next teacher to arrive and didn't have to wait long as the door opened. I am coming through the door like a normal person, and the giant figure of All Might dramatically made his entry. The class burst into excited whispers upon seeing him. It's All Might. Wow, he really is a teacher. That's a costume from the Silver Age, isn't it? All Might gloriously made his way towards the center of the room as the whispers continued. That style is so different, it's giving me goosebumps. The number 1 hero Naruto marveled at the sight of him now that he got a good look. He didn't really pay attention back when he saves his friend, but now he could really get a good look at him. But for some reason he felt like he had seen someone look like him, but a different type of body. He shook his head. Probably some sort of fan that I saw that resembled him. I teach hero basic training, All Might said in his heroic pose, which was him putting his arms at his hips. It is a subject where you train in different ways to learn the basics of being a hero. You'll take the most units of this subject. He made a pose of flexing before he randomly got a piece of paper with battle written on it. Let's get right into. This is what we'll do today. Where did he get that from? His suit doesn't have any pockets, Naruto thought, wondering where he got that from. Combat training. He shouted, getting most of the class to get hyped about it. He then pointed towards the wall, and to go with that are these. Columns came out of the wall with numbers written on them, costumes made based on your quirk registrations and requests you sent in before school started. After you change, gather in ground beta. Yes sir, the class shouted with everyone looking eager to participate in the upcoming test. All Might stood proudly in the middle of a street in ground beta, awaiting the students who were changing into their uniforms and finally caught glimpses of them arriving. They say the clothes make the man, young men and ladies. The students came closer, showing their silhouettes. Be fully aware, from now on. You are heroes. The students finally came out and all were decked out fully in their costumes. Naruto's hero costume consisted of a high-collar short-sleeved coat that came up to his thighs. The coat was zipped up at the top and unzipped at the bottom of it and was black-colored with orange and white bits on it. On the back of his coat were 2 holes for his wings. He wore a tight white t-shirt underneath his coat along with black jogging pants, orange socks, and to top it off he had white sneakers on. This was Naruto's first hero costume design. It was inspired by his previous dream. Naruto wanted to become Hokage and he loved the coat of the leader. He decided to add that and use one of his favorite colors and make it look as cool as possible. That was something he did because he thought it would catchy like Hawk's outfit. All in all, he thought it looked very badass on him. He glanced around the room to check out his classmates' hero outfits and thought most of them were nice. But he did look at Shoto weirdly when he saw his entire left side encased in ice. The hell? Why is his left side suddenly completely ice? He thought, looking at him weirdly before shrugging, and continued looking around the room. He stifled a snicker seeing Izuku's green outfit that oddly resembled All Might with his horns and grin. He wasn't the only one, as he saw All Might trying to hold back a snicker like him seeing the fanboy. The next one made him almost choke on his tongue. She was wearing a high-collared, sleeveless crimson leotard with silver lines at her waist and around her arms, which was open to expose her skin from neck to just below her navel. She had calf-length crimson boots with heels, which dipped sharply down in the center, and 2 gold utility belts around her waist, another, thinner one around the top portion of her chest, below her shoulders. He was left gawking at her seeing so much skin. It was understandable because she needed that to use her quirk, but as a healthy teenager who coincidentally had a crush on her, it was a bit too much for him and he almost fainted but kept his composure when she came towards him. Oh wow, your outfit looks really cool, Momo complimented him with a smile, trying to hold back a blush seeing the look on him. DTH thanks, he stammered and cursed himself for stuttering in front of her. Coughing into his hand to get some composure, he replied, "Yours looks very good on you," he complimented her, getting her to beam at him. "You think?" she asked, getting a nod. "I actually had a design that showed more skin, so I could use my quirk better, but they denied that one, saying it showed too much skin." Naruto almost choked once again from that, but luckily managed to keep it in favor of listening to her. Her first design showed even more skin, he thought before shaking his head, getting rid of such thoughts. Their attention was brought back to All Might telling them they'll be split into villains and heroes and fighting at 2-on-2 indoor battles. He told the class that teams would be decided by them drawing lots. Naruto looked on seeing the teams get chosen. He frowned and hoped it wouldn't be with someone like Bakugo because that would end in a big disaster. Team A. Achako Uraraka Izuku Midoriya. Team B. Shoto Todoroki Mizo Shoji. Team C. Momo Yaoi Rozu Naruto Uzumaki. Team D. Katsuki Bakugo Ida Tenya. Team E. Mina Shito Yuga Aoyama. Team F. Koji Kodara Kido Sato. Team G. Denki Kaminari Kyoka Jiro Minoru Mineta. Team H. Sayu Asui Fumikage Tokoyami. Team I. Mashirao Ajiro Tori Hagakure. Team J. Hanta Siro Ajiro Kirishima. But then he turned into all smiles when he saw that his partner was the one and only Momo in Team C. She smiled and came standing next to him to talk when then they heard a bubbly voice once again eagerly talking to Izuku, making them turn towards the two. "Wow, it must be fate that we were put together. I'm counting on you," Achako said, completely unaware of the effect she was having on the poor boy who was left stammering, not knowing what to say back. Naruto chuckled at the two before turning towards his partner. "Do you think we were also fated to be together?" he asked innocently, not knowing the innuendo about his words. Momo felt her cheeks heat up at his sudden words. What? She stuttered at the words, not knowing how to respond, while the blonde just looked confused at her sudden behavior. "Huh? You alright, Momo? You're all red?" he asked, getting closer to her and putting a hand on her forehead. "Well, you are hot," he said, oblivious of him being the cause for it and adding fuel to the fire by his words. Momo's face, if possible, got even more red because of the close proximity and his touch. What did you mean by that? She stuttered and cursed herself for not being able to speak smoothly right now. If this went on any further then she might pass out. Naruto removed his hand from her forehead and blinked at her question. "If we were fated to be a team together," he said and rose an eyebrow. "Are you alright?" The girl had finally gotten rid of her embarrassment and managed to regain her composure, although a part of her was disappointed that he meant it as a team. "No. Focus," she thought, shaking her head before giving the blonde a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I'm alright." Naruto was not truly convinced, but he let it go and slowly nodded his head in acceptance. Ahem. The cough made them shift their gaze towards their right to see Kyoka, who is a petite fair-skinned girl with a slender build. She has triangular, lazy-looking onyx eyes with notably long lower eyelashes and rather small eyebrows. Her hair is short, only around chin length, and is dark purple in color with an asymmetrical fringe and two reflections shaped like heartbeat monitor waves on either side of her head. Her most prominent features are the flexible, plug-like earphone jacks hanging from each of her earlobes at the end of two thin cords, which act like extra limbs. Next to her stood Mineta alongside Denki, who has relatively short blonde hair, parted to the right with a black lightning-shaped streak on the left of his side fringe, which is angled so that it partially obscures his left eye. He has slanted, somewhat triangular yellow eyes and notably small eyebrows. All three of them had witnessed the unusual event take place between the two friends, and Kyoka was just amused, while Denki and Mineta were looking at Naruto with awe, as if he had done something that was otherworldly. "Oh, hi guys," Naruto said, cheerfully waving at them, completely forgetting about the previous event. He crossed his arms. "I'm guessing you are our opponents, right?" he asked. "Yeah," Kyoka answered his question. "Dude, how did you do that?" Mineta questioned him as he got into his face as if he teleported from his spot to him. Naruto back away from them, sudden closeness. "What are you talking? You did that without even thinking about it?" Kyoka sweat dropped at the denseness of the handsome blonde and could only shake her head before glancing at her girl. In pity, he doesn't even know the effect he had on her. She felt like facepalming, but thankfully their attention was gathered when the first fight was going to happen. Everyone except for Team A and Team C went to the basement of the building the test was taking place in to see the battle take place through monitors. Izuku's team against Bakugo's. Naruto grimaced at the prospect. They saw Team D preparing for the heroes to come. Naruto sighed when he saw Bakugo instantly ambush Team A when they got inside the building. "He's very impatient and aggressive," Momo stated, looking towards her friend, who agreed. "Yeah, he's always been like that to Izuku and everyone else," he said, getting her to look at him for an explanation, but he just shrugged his shoulders. "I don't really know why he is like that." "That's cheating. An ambush is so unmanly," Kirishima shouted with an outrage, but All Might shook his head in negative. "No, they are villains, so it's not above them to do something like that." Keep that in mind, the teacher reminded him as the red-haired boy let it go reluctantly. Something tells me Bakugo would have done that regardless if he was on the hero's side or not, Naruto thought, letting out an inward snort. They couldn't hear what they were saying, but Naruto grinned widely when he saw Izuku actually go toe-to-toe against Bakugo. He looks really pissed off, Denki commented, shivering a bit. It's scary. Naruto kept his eyes firmly on the screen, all the while some students commented about Bakugo's skills, fast thinking and talent. Naruto agreed with Shoto about his comment of not expecting him to be smart like that at first glance. He had thought the same thing when they first met, but that quickly changed. I wish I could hear what they were saying, Naruto thought, pouting a bit, but perked up when he saw both of them charging at each other. He's finally going to use his quirk. Won't he get injured because of it? Sensei, isn't that enough? They're really going to hurt each other badly. All Might agreed with the comment and went to suspend the match, but stopped when he saw the scene play out and Ichako preparing her attack against Ida. He broke his arm again, Naruto frowned, shaking his head. His quirk is really dangerous for his body. Shouldn't it be possible for him to use an appropriate amount of power that his body can handle? Momo supplied, getting Naruto to blink. He palmed his face for not thinking about that. I'm an idiot, he muttered, getting her to look at him. I'm going to have to tell him that and find a way to fix it. You're going to train with him? She asked, raising an eyebrow at him. Yep. He's my friend, so of course I would do that, he said, smiling, seeing All Might announce Team A's victory. He felt a tug on his sleeve and looked towards the black-haired girl next to him. She was a bit fidgety and had a small pink hue on her face. Do you think I can train with you? She asked, hopefully, looking him in the eyes, the blush still there. The blonde blinked before grinning widely at the prospect of training and spending more time with his crush. Of course, Dadabeo. She smiled at him. She froze, and along with everyone else in the room looked towards Naruto, some of the girls giggling, while some had teasing smiles on their faces. What? Naruto asked, confused at their sudden laughter in the room. Not only Nakan but also a verbal tick, huh? Momo said with a teasing grin on her face. Naruto's eyes widened upon hearing that he let his verbal tick let loose. He cursed himself for doing that. The last time he did that, Hawks hadn't stopped talking about it for an entire week, and now he said it in front of his entire class. The teasing won't ever stop, not good. His cheeks reddened in embarrassment. Hey, I only use it when I get excited or embarrassed, Dadabeo, he retorted before cursing once again as laughter and giggling once again rang throughout the room. He pouted at them. You've gotten meaner, Momo. She only giggled at him before apologizing for the teasing. She couldn't help but tease him for all those things. He looks so cute when he gets all embarrassed like that and turns into a tomato, she thought as Naruto grumbled about betraying friends. Thankfully for Naruto's sake, they all moved on towards grading and the next round, which was Team B against Team I. It did not last long at all because Shoto decided to just freeze the entire building before capturing the nuke. He warned his teammate and didn't the core, along with weakening his enemies with tease, All Might commented, shivering along with everyone else in the class, except for Bakugo, who was standing there not paying attention with his eyes shadowed by his hair. Man, he's something else. Kirishima said, much to the agreement of the class. Heat. Naruto thought, seeing him melt down the ice. So he can use ice and fire. Interesting. He thought before he and Momo were called up to against Team G. They were the heroes while the other three were the villains defending the nuke. Alright, Naruto began looking at his teammate. I don't know their abilities that well, but I know one weakness about their team, he said before groaning at the weakness. Momo instantly caught up to what he was saying and sighed. Mineta will be unfortunately looking Kyoka, which we could use as a distraction. She shook her head at the perverted boy's weakness. I have a simple plan we could use to get through them, she said as Naruto perked up and nodded, getting her to get closer and whispered the plan to him. I didn't know you could create that, Naruto said, grinning at her, but then you also created a cannon, he said, cracking his knuckles looking forwards. It's also good that Kyoka would be sensitive to that. Holy crap, I forgot about that, Naruto said, beaming at her. You're a genius, Momo. Momo smiled at his compliment as All Might signaled for them to start going into the building. Watch out for any traps on the floor they made, Momo said, scanning their environment along with her teammate. Oh man, I feel bad for those three for having to go against Momo and Naruto, Hanta commented, seeing Denki and Mineta not really paying attention while Kyoka kept scolding them. Yeah, to go against those two will be hard, Mina said, agreeing with her classmate. All Might sighed and shook his head, seeing the three classmates not really working together but just trying to find out where they are coming from to ambush them. Pay attention, you pervert, Kyoka snapped at the small boy who flinched and looked way sweating at her tone. Denki snickered at him before she shifted her glare towards him, making him flinch. And you stop goofing around, he nodded his head dumbly, fearing her wrath. She shook her head honestly. I can't try to hear them if yo. Just then all three of them saw three flashbangs getting thrown into the room and they had no time before all three of them were blindsided with their ears ringing because of it. Ah, what the hell, I can't see. No. I don't want to be blind, I still want to see a naked woman in real life. That shouldn't be your priority right now, Kyoka shouted towards the perverted boy, even if she wasn't looking at him, trying to get her eyesight back. Finally, after a couple of seconds their eyesight returned and they all were standing at the exact same spot while nothing had happened to them. Nothing happened? Mineta questioned, confused at them not coming out when they were blinded and temporarily incapacitated. Be quiet and be on alert now. Kyoka once again said in a stern tone while everyone kept looking around trying to find them. Kyoka was frantically trying to search for a sound, but there was nothing there and she still had ringing from those flashbangs because her ears were much more sensitive. Denki was looking at everyone sharply trying to find any clue of their whereabouts before he saw flashbangs once again getting thrown into the room. Watch out, flashbangs again. He shouted with wide eyes before quickly shutting them close with the others doing the same. This time the lightning quirk user heard another sound to his left. You guys lose. His eyes widened at hearing that. That was Naruto's voice right there he just heard. Without giving it any thought, he sent a bolt of electricity towards that place. He heard a groan of pain, but he was confused because it was a female voice. Opening his eyes, he saw that he had hit his teammate Kyoka and his jaw dropped in shock before he was whacked on the head by Momo, who held a staff in her hand. He swiftly fell down on the ground, knocked out by the hit from the staff. Guys, what's happening? Mineta asked, panicking at not hearing an answer before his hands were suddenly clinging to his body because of something binding them there. That caused his eyes to open and he felt himself being picked up before he looked over his shoulder to see Naruto smiling at him in amusement. Momo walked over towards the nuke and touched it, earning them their victory over the three villains. Naruto walked over towards Kyoka and picked up a recorder and played the sound again. You guys lose. The hero team wins again. All Might's voice rang out as Mineta's shoulders slumped. Mini conveyor bots came in and picked up the knocked out students to bring them to the infirmary of the school. Naruto and Momo both grinned at each other and high-fived for their victory and the plan working out. They came back to the monitor rooms to see everyone looking at them with eager and a bit odd face. Wow, you two work so well together. Mina came rushing in complimenting the two. Yeah, both of you were manly right there. Kirishima chirped in with his comment. How did you get them to fight each other? Sayu asked with an inquisitive look on her face. Both Momo and Naruto were bombarded with questions once they entered the monitor room, but thankfully All Might came to their rescue by coughing into his hand. We should give them some breathing room, he advised, getting thankful looks from his two students while the others looked back at them with sheepish smiles. Now young Naruto and young Momo, would you explain your plan? He asked, getting them to nod as the others looked eager because they hadn't seen what had happened because the flashbangs blocked their view. They had seen the two waiting outside the top room, but they saw Naruto disappear for a second, but he came back and nothing had happened. The blonde turned to Momo. Do you want to explain or should I? He asked her. Go ahead, she said with a smile as Naruto nodded and stepped forward a bit. We both used one of their weaknesses to our advantage at first, which was Mineta's perverseness that got them to sweat drop, while the mentioned student had a cloud of depression over his head hearing that. We heard them arguing and took that chance to throw those flashbangs Momo had made to not only blindside them for some seconds, but also weaken Kyoka's enhanced hearing ability because of the backlash of 3 flashbangs. Because of those flashbangs, that gave me enough time to move in and put in the recorder Momo had made, which I already used to make a sound. He was interrupted when he interrupted by fumigage. Why didn't you just take them out during that time? He asked, knowing that Naruto would be able to take them down, but he only got a shake of his head. All Might also wanted to know why he didn't do that, but he had his theories, but just needed to hear his reason. I could have taken them down, but my attack would have taken too long to build up, which would leave me vulnerable against 3 people. Well, we could have gone in and fight head on and win. Both of us wanted to get it done efficiently and clean, without causing any collateral damage. That confirmed All Might's theory, and he was very impressed so far by the thinking of these two. Fumikage nodded his head in understanding, while Naruto continued with explaining the plan to them. As I said, I put down the recorder behind Kyoka and set the play button and quickly got out of there back to Momo. They then did exactly what we wanted them to when Momo threw in the decoys, causing them to panic once again, and that's when Denki heard my voice from the recorder and thought I was trying to get the nuke, and so he attacked thinking it was me. Amanari was panicking even more when he saw him hit his teammate, giving Yaoi Rozu to come in and take him out, while you took care of Mineta. Shoto conclude his plan, giving them both a slight nod of respect for the efficient and simple plan. The others joining and congratulating them. Both Momo and Naruto puffed their chest out in pride at hearing class praising them. Naruto was a bit unnerved by Shoto's eyes though. His eyes, they're the same as the villagers. The same hateful look, but it's not directed at me, he thought, glancing at the boy sometime. Excellent planning, young Naruto and young Momo. Both of you were the MVP of this round, All Might said, proud of the two students for the way they worked together without any problems. They then went to with the rest of the matches and finally came to an end with all of them standing outside. Kyoka and Denki had joined them again, but Izuku was still in the infirmary, seeing as his wounds were far more lethal. Good work everyone. All of you did splendid during the fights and learned a lot. Now I'm going to go and share the critique with young Midoriya. Change your clothes and return back to your classroom, he said before quickly vanishing and running towards the infirmary of UA. Man, that was fun, Naruto commented, grinning along with Momo, who agreed as they made their way towards their classroom. Izuku Midoriya came back into the classroom with his arm still injured and was instantly bombarded with questions about his quirk. The poor boy wasn't able to handle all the attention as his expression turned a bit bashful. Naruto just chuckled next to Momo, with both of them watching the scene play out. Out of the corner of his eyes, Naruto saw Bakugo take his bag and stand up, leaving without saying anything. He frowned at that. No matter how much of an asshole he was to everyone, he was still a classmate. Hey Momo, I'll be right back, he said, excusing himself to go after Bakugo, and saw Izuku doing the same as him. He followed the two and came towards the entrance of the school and saw the freckled boy shout towards the blonde to stop. Naruto did not join their conversation and merely decided to just stand a bit further away and listen. He was shocked when he heard his green-haired friend confess obtaining his quirk from somebody else and not unlocking it like everyone else. What? A quirk that you can pass on? Naruto thought in awe at that. He didn't expect that there was a quirk like that, but who gave it to him? The quirk was very if utilized well, and he couldn't come up with anyone that would willingly give up something that amazing. But why did he lie to me about him unlocking it? He felt betrayed once again at his friend lying to him. How much more was there to this if he lied to him and couldn't tell who he got it from? His thoughts were broken when he heard Bakugo screaming at Izuku and saw All Might coming and trying to console his fellow blonde. He smirked when he heard him declare that he will surpass All Might and become the top hero. Seeing him leave, Naruto just looked towards him and Izuku before going his own way. I'm not going to lose to Izuku, Bakugo. The three went their own way with All Might standing there a bit confused at the scene, not knowing what to do. The school day ended and Naruto packed up his stuff and slung his bag over his shoulders. Looking behind him to address the girl. Hey Momo, she perked up and looked from packing her stuff at him. Yes. You said you wanted to train, right? He got a nod and grinned widely. All right, so we can start tomorrow at my house? He asked, scratching his head as she smiled at him. Of course, I'll tell my parents that I'll be going to your home tomorrow. She stood up from her desk. By the can you send me your address, because I have to go now, she said, giving him an apologetic look, seeing as her driver was already here. Yeah, I'll send you text anyway, he said as she waved goodbye. Naruto took a deep breath and smiled widely. Today was a good day in his opinion. He spent more time with his crush, made more friends, had awesome lessons except for the theory stuff. He looked towards Izuku, seeing him leaving the class, and quickly made his way towards him. Izuku weighed up. He called out, getting him to turn back. Did you need anything, Nakan? Naruto's eye twitched again hearing the blasted nickname he got from his friend, but shook his head. Listen Izuku, he put his hand on the boy's shoulders, startling him a bit. From now on me and you are going to work together a lot more because you need to start getting your quirk under control. Midoriya frowned hearing. He wasn't against the training, but it was difficult to do that. I know that my body isn't strong enough for me to use my quirk. Naruto cut him off by shaking his head and squeezing his shoulders. Not that, but you need to start using less power of your quirk. He saw him looking at him a bit confusingly. Sighing, he decided to elaborate. Let's say you now use 100% of your quirk's power but can't handle it and your body gets injured, right? He got a nod of confirmation. So what if you were able to actually bring that down towards 20% or even 10%? Izuku's eyes actually widened at that. He didn't think about that and thought he would just make sure his body would have to get used to the strain. So that's why we're going to try and find out a way to get you use less power of your quirk so you don't keep injuring yourself. He patted him on the shoulder. Come to my house tomorrow so you, me and Momo can figure out a way to do that exactly. The freckled boy smiled gratefully at his friend for what he said and accepted the request as Naruto beamed at him and left to finally go home. The last couple of days have come and gone well but weren't any special in the eyes of one Naruto Uzumaki. It continued on towards the last day of school, Friday, which was yesterday. The blonde had told both Momo and Izuku that it would be better if they postponed their training session to the weekend. It was Saturday today and the blonde had told Momo to text him when she got close his house so he can go outside and greet her and let her in, seeing as they have a gate that needs to be opened. While yes, he can open it from inside of his house, he would rather go greet her outside than just open the gate. He said the same towards his friend Izuku, who would also be coming over on this day so they can help him figure out how to use less power and not get injured because of his quirk. He was standing in front of the mirror having just put on his clothes after his shower. He was wearing black joggings along with a white tank top. Just then he heard the notification sound coming from his phone. Taking the device from his pocket he checked to see a text from Momo, saying she was close before he got another text, but this time from Izuku, saying he would be a couple of minutes late. Alright. Let's go outside and get Momo here, he said, putting the towel he used to dry his hair in a bin and walked out of his room while running downstairs to go outside. Downstairs Kigo was watching the TV while sipping on some tea. Seeing as it was the weekend and he had a day off, he figured he would just laze around the house and try to do something fun. Maybe I can just annoy Naruto all day, he thought, chuckling at the thought, or I can tease him about that Momo girl again. I heard she was in his class now, he snickered at the thought of messing with him. It was just so fun doing that, and just then he heard some rapid footsteps running down the stairs, causing the hero to turn around to see his little brother making his way towards the door. Naruto, he called, getting the boy to look back towards him. Kigo? Naruto questioned, tilting his head, showing a confused expression. I thought you would have gone to work by now. Not today's my day off, he said, shrugging his shoulder, and put down his cup of tea on the table. Why are you in such a rush, he asked, raising a curious eyebrow at him. You'll see in a bit, because there are some people coming over, he said before vanishing from his spot and continuing his walk towards the door. Now Hawks was interested as Naruto never brought back anyone home. While he had friends and sometimes went to their house, he had never brought anyone home, and he himself hadn't said anything towards Naruto to not allow him to do it, so he was always a bit confused as to why he never brought his friends here. Alright, good thing I picked this day as my day off, he thought, going back to watching the TV. Naruto arrived at the gate in front of his house mansion and opened it to get outside and wait for Momo to arrive. He didn't have to wait long as a very expensive looking car pulled up in front of him and Momo stepped out of the car wearing a casual black skirt with a white top. She a bag with her which he assumed had her training clothes in. Momo Naruto greeted with a smile, getting one in return. Hey, did I make you wait long, she asked a bit sheepishly, but Naruto shook his head. Nah, not at all, the blonde said, reassuring her. Come on, let's go inside. He gestured for her to follow him towards the gate, where Momo was surprised to see that. Entering the code, the gate opened, allowing them to move inside. Now I understand why you wanted me to text you beforehand, Momo said as Naruto chuckled and nodded, leading her towards the door. Looking towards the house, she wasn't that surprised to see a mansion. It wasn't as big as hers, but it still looked quite big and expensive. I didn't know you lived in a place like this. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and blushed a bit. Well, Kigo is the one who bought this entire place. Kigo? She asked, raising an eyebrow. She knew Naruto was an orphan, seeing as he had told her, and while she knew he had a guardian, she didn't know his name. Yeah, he's my older brother, Naruto said with a nod as he opened the door. I'll introduce you to him. Momo nodded and followed him inside the house, and before she could comment on the inside, they both heard footsteps making their way towards them. Naruto, you're back, Kigo said, coming to greet them. He then saw Momo next to his younger brother figure. Oh, and who is this? He asked with a sly smirk, causing Naruto to narrow his eyes and the black-haired girl to blush, understanding the tone. Naruto sniffed and marched towards him. You are not going to try and do something stupid, he said, crossing his arms. But the number 3 hero feigned innocence and put a hand on his chest. Why would I try and embarrass you in front of your girlfriend, he said, and laughed inwardly, seeing Naruto instantly flush red along with the girl. She's not my girlfriend, you idiot, the blonde growled at him while looking down at him, seeing as he was 2 inches taller. Is that any way to talk, your older brother? I talk like that because you always try to embarrass me. Now, any older brother would do that sort of stuff with their cute little brother. I'm taller than you. But that's what makes it so much fun and hilarious. Naruto blush intensified tenfold and growled at him. The hero merely sighed and shook his head, and here I thought I taught you better than that. He shook his head once again, as if talking to a 6-year-old. Off to the side, Momo smiled softly, seeing the interaction between the two. It was a very endearing and warm scene to witness. They really looked like they were a younger and older brother arguing with each other. Even she knew that, even if she didn't have any siblings at all. Plus it's funny and cute to see this childish side of Naruto, she thought, before realizing what she was thinking, and a furious blush made its way to her face, instantly getting her to become completely red. Fortunately for the girl, the two blondes were too busy bickering with each other to notice her state. Whatever, Hawk said, waving his hand before putting them in his pockets and walking away. Just don't destroy too much. He disappeared around the corner as Naruto let a sigh of relief for not getting more embarrassment, but it was for naught as he peeked his head around the corner once again. And don't forget to use protection when doing the act. He laughed as Naruto turned red once again along with the girl. That fucker. Naruto growled before taking a deep breath and getting himself under control. He looked towards his crush to see her in the same flustered state. Shaking his head, walked back towards her and apologized for what was said, not wanting to come across as a pervert to her. Don't worry about it, Momo waved it off, a small smile. You two seem to be very close to each other. She didn't know much about adopted families, but these two certainly acted like they really were brothers. Yeah, both of us have lived with each other for almost 10 years now, Naruto said, smiling at the memories of both him and Hawks. He looks a bit familiar, but I can't remember where I would have seen him, Momo commented, trying to think where she saw him. Those wings seemed really familiar. Oh yeah, and Naruto blinked at that. You probably know him better as Hawks, the number 3 hero. Momo eyes widened a tad bit at that information as it finally clicked in her mind. I knew I recognized him from somewhere, she said before looking towards her blonde friend. You never told me you grew up with him of all people, she said with a mock pout. Naruto grinned mischievously at her. You never asked, he said in cheeky tone, getting a huff from the girl before he chuckled at their shenanigans while the girl grinned alongside him. Come on, I'll show you around the house before Izuku gets here, he said, gesturing her to follow him. And finally, the last place we have is my room. Naruto pointed towards the door that led to his room. Is there any reason you saved this one for the last? The black-haired girl asked him as Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Ah well, you see, my room is a bit special, he said in a somewhat shy tone, causing Momo to blink and narrow her eyes a bit at him. This was new to her because Naruto was never shy like that unless it was something he wanted to keep a secret, and that something would be undoubtedly something that he thinks would be embarrassing. Special? She asked, raising a curious eyebrow at him, clearly wanting him to elaborate. It's he struggled a bit to explain before shrugging. It's best if I show you. He turned the knob on the door and opened it, letting him and the girl enter the room. Momo didn't really understand why he would be shy about his room, but the moment she entered she understood why. There were tons of posters on his walls of anime and lots of figurines of characters she recognized as characters from multiple animes. Naruto was an avid anime fan, she mused. The blonde in question stood next to her, a bit apprehensive in letting her into his room. He hadn't told anyone about it because he thought people would think it would be weird and had kept it a secret. Stupid Hawks would always tease him being a fanboy of Goku and trying to imitate him, and it always infuriated and embarrassed him. He anxiously waited for Momo's reaction and hoped it wouldn't be bad. He wasn't disappointed when Momo turned towards him with a very eager expression. You're a very big anime fan, she said in a bubbly tone that he really found cute. He nodded as her expression brightened even more. I love anime too, but I never expected for you to like this much too. Naruto blinked at the realization that she too seemed to be a very big fan like him. His anxiousness was replaced by happiness. Wow, I didn't know that. You never told me anything about it, he sent her a pout. She huffed at him like, you can talk about that, Mr. Room full of anime posters, she said as Naruto huffed right back at her. Well, at least I was able to show it to you, he smirked at her with eyes twinkling with mischief. You were too embarrassed, weren't you? She blushed at his right guess before both laughed once again between each other. Getting her laughter under control, she wiped away a tear out of her eye. You have got to show me your collection, she said, giving him a puppy-eyed look which the poor boy instantly caved into. All right, just don't give me that look, he said hurriedly and ran into his walk-in closet where he stored his collection. Momo had a victorious grin on her face seeing that. Looking around the room, she focused on the other stuff he had. There were some clothes on his bed, but she actually went to check on the photos that he had in his room. She laughed at a picture of a 7-year-old Naruto screaming with a horrified look and running away from what she assumed to be Hawks dressed as a ghost. This was probably during Halloween, she thought, chuckling a bit before moving on to the next picture where the blonde dressed as Goku in the iconic orange and blue guy. He really is a big fan of Goku. She saw multiple posters of Goku around the room. She walked around the room for 2 minutes before deciding to check on Naruto as he took way too long. Moving towards the walk-in closet, she was about to open the door before Naruto excitedly walked out and bumped into her, causing them to stumble onto the floor with Naruto being on his back and Momo landing on top of him with their faces dangerously close to each other. They both stared into each other's eyes, and for the first time she saw how good-looking his eyes were in her opinion. Momo felt like Naruto's eyes were one of the most beautiful things she had ever seen. Like a clear ocean that she could drown in, or a clear sky which she could gaze at all day long. Both could feel their hot breath on their faces, and Naruto could feel her very well-developed breast on his chest. Both of them instantly flushed red. Naruto had also instinctively wrapped his around her waist, which pulled her even closer towards him. Alas, they had to pull away from each other as Momo stood up with the blonde doing the same. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. Naruto frantically tried to apologize with a red face, trying to hide his arousal while turning away from her. Momo was in the same predicament as she didn't want him to see her entirely red face. Her heart was beating frantically as if it could explode any moment right now. It's alright, she stuttered meekly before an awkward silence followed after their moment. But thankfully it was saved by Naruto getting a notification on his phone which allowed a distraction for the both of them. Checking his phone, Naruto saw that Izuku had arrived at his place and he thanked every deity out there for saving him from the awkwardness that had taken place. Izuku is here, I'm going to go and get him while you can wait here, or you can already go to the back, he suggested, while Momo was also thankful for the distraction. She nodded her head at him. "I'll wait at the back," she said before she went into the bathroom to change her clothes and walked away from the room while going downstairs with the blonde going to the door and Momo to the backyard. Naruto, after having found the confused green-haired boy, led to his all the while ignoring his gawking at the lavish mansion. "Wow, I always knew you were loaded, but this is just wow," Izuku said, not knowing what to say. It wasn't as if he was poor or anything, he just didn't expect for his friend to live in such a nice place. "Loaded?" Naruto questioned, opening the door and letting the boy inside. "I'm not the one who's loaded but Kigo." Before Izuku could question him further, the number 3 hero decided to make his presence known again. "You brought someone else too?" he questioned as Naruto nodded his head. He looked towards the freckled boy and blinked, seeing his absolutely starstruck expression. "Holy crap. It's Hawks," the number 3 hero. In a flash he made his way towards him, getting the hero to back up a bit. The freckled boy had stars in his eyes as he eyed the hero in front of him. "How fast can you travel with your wings? Are the wings the only part of your quirks? Can you use your wings for more than just flying? How you do know, Naruto?" The boy kept firing question after question, not leaving room for any answers whatsoever. Naruto groaned, hearing his friend go into fanboy mode. He should have expected this to happen, but it wasn't his fault because he thought he was going to be alone in the house today. How should he have predicted that today was Hawk's day off? He sighed before taking a hold of his friend collar and dragging him away from the hero towards the backyard, all the while ignoring the freckled boy's pleas of letting him stay and ask his questions. Momo was wandering around the pretty large backyard and was eyeing the part where there seemed to be lots of flowers and plants, which were taken care of very gently and well. She knew Naruto had a thing for gardening, but didn't expect him to actually have this much devotion to it. It was another aspect of him that she very much liked. Hearing a sound, she turned towards and promptly sweat dropped, seeing Naruto dragging their classmate with him. Letting go of his friend, Naruto turned him around, letting him sort out the crinkles in clothes before he notices another one of their class. "Oh yaoi Rozu-san, I am Izuku Midoriya," he introduced himself with a bow, not seeing Naruto roll his eyes good-naturedly at his friend's shyness. "We haven't been introduced yet, Midoriya-san, you can call me Momo if you wish," he said as the green-haired slowly nodded his head. Naruto clapped his hands, gaining their attention as they both turned towards him. "Alright, now that introductions are over, let's get right into business." "Right training," Izuku said with fire in his eyes, along with Momo being the same. "I think we should go over each other's weaknesses and try to find a way to improve upon them, or maybe even get rid of them," Momo suggested, wisely getting both boys to agree with her suggestion. Seeing them agree with, she continued, "I'll start with my current problem, which you pointed out already, Naruto, when we teamed up," she said, looking towards Naruto, who knew what she was talking about. "Yes, you need to learn a fighting style while also trying to think less and go more with the flow and not let your mind hinder you too much," he said, causing her to nod. "Thinking through is very smart, but solely relying on your brain isn't enough, which is where the fighting style comes in. I like fighting up close, and I can teach you while you can help me with my problem, which is making me less of a hothead," the boy said with a sheepish smile, causing them to sweat drop. "Ox always says that I'm too much of a hothead and rush into things. He says that my emotions let me get the best of me most of time. But your emotions are also what causes you to get more motivated to win," Momo said in an understanding tone, knowing him. She knew Naruto thrived because of his emotions, but that was also something that could be used against him. A double-edged, so to speak. They both turned towards the last one, who was looking between the two who had already said a lot. I can't control my quirk," he answered, looking down a bit before he was whacked on his head by Naruto. "Stop being so gloomy about that," he said, slinging an arm around his shoulders. "That's why we're here, to fix that problem and get you more confident." Momo shook her head at Naruto's bluntness but couldn't refute his points. Izuku smiled brightly at both of them for wanting to help him with his problem. "Midoriya-san," Momo said, gaining his attention, "your quirk, can you tell us more about it?" The mentioned boy panicked a bit at that question. He couldn't just go and say it's one for all and it works exactly like All Might's. "No." Naruto watched carefully as his friend panicked a bit, even if he hit it well, but he saw it and narrowed his eyes a bit before letting it go. Izuku wasn't obligated to tell him who he got the quirk from, and he couldn't and wouldn't force it out of him. He would respect that much and let it go. "My quirk enhances my body to superhuman strength, but I haven't discovered more," the boy answered, getting a hum from the girl. Naruto looked towards Momo to see her nod her head. "And your body is unable to handle all the power output," she said, getting the boy to nod him. "And have ever tried to use less power so you wouldn't get injured?" she asked, crossing her arms. "I have tried, but I couldn't get it to work," the boy said in a dejected manner, getting Naruto to sigh again. "Izuku, I told you to get rid of the gloomy attitude, so chin up," the handsome boy said with a motivating grin on his face. Momo nodded, agreeing with her crush on that matter before she had an idea. "Midoriya-san," she called out once again as both boys looked at her, "when you use your quirk you subconsciously use 100% of that power and put it in your punch, if I'm right?" she asked him, getting him a nod. She continued, if that's then it should be easy to fix that, she said in confident tone, getting both of them to look surprised and Izuku to look hopeful. But how? Naruto questioned. When Midoriya-san used his quirk, he concentrates all of his power output on his focal point, which is why his arms isn't able to handle it, she started as Izuku agreed with that. He does try to put all the power into one limb to get as much as power as possible. But what does that have to do with the fix? Naruto asked again, getting her to smirk at him. Naruto pouted, knowing she was teasing him for not figuring it out already. What Midoriya-san needs to do is simple. He needs to evenly let all that power spread throughout his body, which will balance it out and let him use much less power and not get himself injured. Both boys thought about it before Izuku suddenly understood as his eyes widened a bit, which Momo noticed. Let it spread throughout my entire body, he said in realization as his eyes sparkled in hope. Naruto was still a bit confused as he was scratching his head. Go ahead and try to do exactly that, Midoriya-san, the ponytail girl advised as she stepped back a bit, giving him some room. The green-haired boy took a deep breath as he let one for all flow, though his body and the red lines once again appeared on his body. Both Momo and Naruto watched curiously as they spread throughout his entire body before suddenly green lightning came out of him, startling both of them. What the? Lighting? Naruto questioned confusingly, but Midoriya was marveling at the feeling. Right. He felt lighter and he could feel the power flow through him. It wasn't as powerful as when he used 100%, but this felt so good. He estimated that this was around 5% that he was using right now. It looks like it worked, Momo said, happily seeing her theory worked out correctly. We have to test this out, come on, Naruto said eagerly as Momo agreed with him. Both Naruto and Izuku stood a couple of feet apart from each other while Momo played referee. Bringing her arm down, both boys tensed, but suddenly Izuku shot out from his spot and surprised Naruto with his speed. He was barely able to dodge the attack on him as he flipped away from him on time. Whoa, your speed has increased, Naruto commented, a bit surprised at how much faster he was. I didn't get injured, Izuku muttered in a surprised and happy tone, seeing his body intact. He grinned at that prospect before looking towards his friend, who grinned right back, continuing their spar. From the balcony off the mansion, Hawks was watching it play out interestingly. That boy's quirks reminded him somewhat of All Might's, and he was surprised to see him keep up with Naruto, seeing as he was quite fast as well. They seemed to be at a stalemate at the moment, even if Naruto wasn't using his fire powers right now. He knew Naruto was still holding back a bit in their spar, as he was quite efficient in hand-to-hand combat, but nonetheless, he was impressed. Alright, you win, Izuku huffed, taking deep breaths as he wiped away some sweat from the intense spar against his friend, who was also sweating from the fight but wasn't breathing as deeply as him. Looks like we managed to correct a weakness of Midoriya-san, Momo commented with a smile as the mentioned boy nodded and thanked them for their help. How much power were you using, Izuku? Naruto asked his friend. I would say around 5% is the maximum my body can handle at the moment. That's pretty good for now, Naruto said as he nodded, getting an idea. Alright, now that we know you can go higher, you should continue on improving your body so you can use more. He grinned sadistically at him, causing shivers to go down their spines. You have to run at least 50 laps around the entire yard while I try to teach Momo a fighting style. 50? Izuku shouted in shock. Come on, by the time you're done we should have trained enough and could call it a day, he commented with his grin still on his face. The poor body shoulders slumped as he heeded his friend's words and started his 50 laps around the big yard. Turning towards his crush, he saw her shaking her head at him. What? You know what I'm talking about, she crossed her arms. 50 laps, really? Ma, he'll get used to it, he waved away her concern, knowing his friend would be motivated enough and could handle it. He could certainly, so why wouldn't Izuku be able to do it? He refused to acknowledge the part of his brain that told him his stamina was too good and that's why he could handle it. Let's you to teaching a fighting style. But before we start, do you have any preferences? He asked her, confusing her a bit. Preferences? What do you mean exactly? She inquired. I mean if you want to go with your fists or if you want to have a fighting style with a weapon, he clarified, getting her to think for a bit. I want to include using a bow staff in my fighting style, she said, getting Naruto to raise an eyebrow at the odd choice of weapon, but he wouldn't refuse her preferences. Alright, you make a bow staff and we'll get right into it, he said with a determined tone, fire in his eyes, with Momo doing the same. They continued with helping each other, all the while ignoring their poor worn-down classmate who was struggling to continue but wanted to succeed. 2 hours later they were all sitting inside drinking and eating to refill their energy. Izuku had gone off to once again question Hawks, while both Naruto and Momo were in the kitchen with Naruto preparing food for them. I didn't know you could cook, she said in a surprised and bit teasing tone. Well, you learn something new about me every day, he gave her a wink while continuing their cooking. After eating dinner, they saw that it was slowly getting dark outside, which meant that the day was coming an end and his friends would have to go back to their home. Izuku had left 30 minutes earlier, stating he would eat dinner at his home because his mother would be too worried. Naruto understood him well, knowing how doting his mother was. Now both Naruto and Momo were standing at the front door saying their goodbyes to each other. The day was a lot of fun, Naruto, Momo said, smiling at him, causing him to beam. We should do this again tomorrow. If it's possible, she added quickly with a small blush on her cheeks. Naruto bit his lips, hearing an idea forming in his head, but he wasn't sure if it would be appropriate to ask or if she would even accept it. Deciding to fuck it and go with it, he just asked her, if you want you can stay the night so we can continue tomorrow, he said, scratching his head, hoping she wouldn't refuse. The girl's eyes widened a bit at the request and frankly wanted to instantly accept it, but she composed herself. She knew her parents would let her stay, so she asked if she could call her parents before giving him an answer, which Naruto accepted and gave her the privacy needed. Momo? Honey? Do you need me to come pick you up? Her mother's voice rang out through the phone. No mom, I wanted to ask if I could stay at my friend's house. Your friend's house? Well, that's no problem. Who is it? Momo bit her lip, contemplating if it would be a good idea to tell her that she was staying at a boy's house. Her mother wasn't really strict, but her father was very overprotective. But she had told her parents of Naruto and hoped they would let her. I'm staying Naruto's house, she revealed, waiting for her answer. Naruto, ho ho, well then of course you stay there, dear, just call any of us tomorrow to come pick you up, her mother said in a very happy tone, which surprised her a bit, but she did hear her father's protest, which her mother promptly ignored. Really? She asked, getting a hum in return. Thank you, mother, love you and see you tomorrow, she said before hanging up. After calling her parents and getting permission to stay, she eagerly skipped towards Naruto and told him of the good news. Naruto was beaming with happiness hearing that as he led her back inside the house and showed her where she could sleep overnight, which was the guest room. Ring, ring. Ugh, Naruto groaned in annoyance at the sound of his alarm going off, indicating it was time to wake up. With some effort he sat and turned off his alarm clock, which was on the small desk next to his bed. Glancing at the clock, he saw it was 9:30 a.m. Kicking off the blankets, he stifled a yawn and made his way towards the bathroom to start off his morning routine. He was still tired from watching anime along with Momo last night. They had stayed up a bit watching their favorite animes together before they both went to sleep after a couple of episodes. Getting out of the shower, he dressed up in a pair of black shorts and a white tank top. He picked out a towel to dry his hair before he heard a knock on his door. Naruto? A female voice called out to him. He recognized it as Momo's. She stayed over from yesterday in the guest bedroom, which was opposite of Hawk's office. With his hair still a bit wet and the towel on his head, he made his way towards his bedroom door. Opening the door, he came face to face with the black-haired girl who actually had her hair down instead of the usual spiky style she had. She looks really nice with her hair let down, the blonde noted thoughtfully. The boy had to try his hardest not blush at her as he tried not to stare too much to be respectful, as the girl had her own thoughts. Momo was looking at Naruto in surprise, seeing the state he was in. His hair was still wet from the shower he seemed to have taken, and the water dripping of hair to the floor and some from his face made him look a bit alluring to her. She suppressed a blush at that. It didn't help that his build was visible thanks to him only wearing his tank top, showing of his muscles to her. But she also didn't want to stare too much, not noticing that both of them were thinking the same thing. You needed something, Momo? He asked, getting her to fidget a bit, causing him to raise an eyebrow. I wanted to shower, but she fumbled with her words a bit. I don't really have any other set of clothes with me, except for the ones I brought with me, but she trailed off as Naruto made an O expression. It seemed like she didn't have any proper clothes she could wear, seeing as she wasn't really prepared to spend the night here. Naruto let his towel fall around as Momo suppressed a blush once again as Naruto sheepishly smiled. Don't worry, I'll lend you one of my hoodies, Naruto offered as Momo gave him a grateful smile while motioning her towards his walk-in closet. Stepping inside the closet, the girl was pleasantly surprised at the amount of clothing there seemed to be there. Mostly it was orange, black, red and yellow colored, but there seemed to be lots of different colored clothes. Not only that, she saw costumes of different anime characters, which made her stifle a chuckle. She eventually chose a cream-colored hoodie that was a bit big for her, but she didn't mind it that much. In fact, she would say that she liked it very much. It was very comfortable in her opinion. Seeing as Naruto didn't have female pants or jeans in his closet, she decided to use her skirt that she had worn before coming here. After that, she left to take a shower and changed into the clothes that she got now. Going down the stairs, she heard some voices talking to each other. Once she got downstairs, she saw Hawks, the number 3 hero, fly away. Off to do his job, I suppose, she thought before seeing Naruto coming from the kitchen with pancakes in his hands as he sat down on the table. Naruto, you didn't have to do all of this, she said, looking apologetic for making the blonde make breakfast for her. Naruto just smiled at her and waved his hand. Nah, don't worry about it, he said, pulling the chair for her to sit on. She sent him a smile for that as she sat down. I usually make breakfast because Kigo is too lazy, so I had already made some for him before making extra for both of us, he grumbled with a twitching eye at the reminder of his brother's laziness when it came to cooking, causing Momo to giggle at his expression. Taking a bite of her pancake, she had to hold back a moan of satisfaction at the taste of her breakfast. These are really good, she complimented, much to Naruto's joy. Thank you. Naruto smiled at her years of practice, he explained as they both continued to eat their breakfast while making some small talks with each other. They decided to not do the training, but rather spend the day on doing their homework and watching even more anime. But after a couple of hours, the fun had to end as Momo's mother came to pick her up. They said their goodbyes to each other till they could see each other again tomorrow at school, unaware of the absolutely bad day they were going to have. A slim man with deathly pale skin, tinged yellow with messy grayish-blue hair varying lengths, the longest clumps reaching to about his shoulders, left hanging over his face in uneven waves. The face being obscured by a hand that seeming stuck to his face, was sitting on a bar stool, hat seemed while staring at a small flat-screen TV, which displayed an outline of a male figure. Have you planned it all out tomorrow? Came the voice of the outline from the screen. Yes master, he answered, scratching his neck, but why go after that blonde one? He asked curiously. Naruto Uzumaki, the outline started as Quirk, it intrigues me because I've never seen anything like that. Is Quirk? The villain asked his master. At first glance it's merely a fire quirk, but it's more than that, the voice explained. He can't only use fire, but grow wings from his back, and unlike the other wings I've seen, these are somehow retractable. Not only that, but his past is very suspicious. The quirk part had already enraptured the villain's attention, but now he was listening very closely, hearing about this so-called past. 9 years ago this Naruto Uzumaki randomly appeared in the records. There was no background on him, no parents, no family, there was nothing on him. It's as if he appeared out of thin air, the voice said, making as the villain was now officially very interested in this individual now. Naruto Uzumaki, huh? I can't wait to see you, what you're capable of. Achoo, Naruto sneezed as he rubbed his nose after that. Someone must be talking about me, the blonde mused as he chuckled, I hope it's about something good. Nak, and what are you talking about? Midoriya next to him asked his friend, who seemed to be talking to himself. Oh, it's nothing you need to worry about, Izuku, and what the hell is going on here, he said, stopping at the sight in front of them. The freckled boy stopping along with him. In front of their school gate stood dozens of reporters trying to engage students into conversation about something. Before they could even take a step further, they were suddenly in front of them with Mix in front of their faces. Can you tell us about All Might? Is he really a teacher? How are the classes as All Might as the teacher? They kept firing questions after questions, not even giving them a chance to remotely give them a proper answer. Hey, I recognize you two, another reporter suddenly voiced as everyone's gaze turned towards him. You two were involved in that sludge accident months ago, he said as Midoriya flushed red in embarrassment while Naruto rolled his eyes at the reminder. Yes, now sorry, but we need to go to our classes, Naruto said, taking a hold of his friend and making his way through the horde of hungry reporters who were still trying to get him to talk and kept firing their question at him, but he just ignored them and with some difficulty managed to get inside the school grounds. That was intense, Izuku muttered, sweating a bit after the experience. He had never experienced anything like that and it was unnerving to say the least. Naruto stared at his friend before sighing. Izuku, you really need to stop getting so angsty over small things and man up. The blonde tried to get his nerves under control as the green-haired boy looked at him. You can even control your quirk better now, so you need to show more confidence. Izuku looked a bit wide-eyed at the reminder of the feat that he accomplished and smiled at his friend. You're right, Nakin, he said as he hesitated for just a second before his eyes shone with a newfound confidence, making the blonde smile at seeing that before they made their way towards their class. I hope all of you are well rested from yesterday's battle trial, as always said with his usual tone. I took the liberty of looking at your marks and evaluation. He finished getting a wince from some of the people in the class. They couldn't help seeing as he said, as if they were some adults who acted like toddlers. The Kugo said boy straightened upon being called. Stop acting like a 7-year-old. You're wasting your own talent. The Kugo just grounded his teeth and looked down at his desk. I know. And you, as always said, switching his gaze towards the boy behind Bakugo, who flinched. Are you always planning on destroying your arm, Midoriya? He asked rhetorically. Some of the class looked at him in sympathy for not being able to control his powerful quirk, while Naruto and Momo hid a smirk, knowing he can control it to a certain degree. Sensei, the freckled boy said as the teacher looked at him. He gulped before continuing. I can actually control it a bit now, he revealed as the black-haired adult looked somewhat surprised by the declaration alongside. The Kugo turned towards him, giving him a calculating look that made him sweat a bit. Stopping from staring at his childhood friend, he looked towards the person he considered his rival, who returned the look and he instantly understood and scoffed before looking back forwards. Is that so? The teacher asked as Izuku nodded his head. Momo-san and Nakin helped me out with finding out how to control a portion of my powers, he explained, as both mentioned students nodded in confirmation with him. Although some of their classmates had to hold back an amused snicker from hearing the nickname. Bakugo was not one of them as he snorted, causing Naruto to scowl. "Did you say something, Kakin?" the blonde asked with a smirk, hearing the boy growl. Somewhere in the Narutoverse, a certain silver-haired Jonin sneezed from where he was kneeling. "I feel like something amazing happened just right now," he hummed before looking towards his fallen comrade's name on the stone. "Do you think it's a kindred spirit, Obito?" "Back to the plot now. Settle down, you two," the teacher warned them, getting grumbles from both of them as they reluctantly backed off each, but not without giving each other a glare. "Keep practicing so you can use it to your full advantage instead of just a portion," he advised before looking towards Todoroki. "Todoroki, you did well, but you should not have gone alone. You need to trust in your comrades more instead of acting solo." He did not get a verbal reply from his student, instead merely getting a nod. Continuing his evaluations until he was done with everyone, he decided to address another topic. "Now let's get on with the homeroom notices. I'm sorry to have spring this on you all, but..." Every student perked up at this, expecting some kind of test like they did yesterday. Another battle trial, they thought, a bit weary. "We need to pick a class president," was the declaration that rang throughout the room, making almost everyone gush out in excitement. Finally something Shu-like. "Ooh, pick me. I want to be class president. Pick me. Ah yes, the position that was made for me." Everyone was eagerly putting themselves for the position as they all shouted for why they should be chosen. "Be quiet," a loud voice snapped, instantly stopping all the exciting murmurs in the class. They all turned towards where the sound came from and saw Ida standing up in front of his desk. "This is a task laden with responsibility where you must carry and pull everyone else's weight. Just because you'd like to do it doesn't mean you can. It is a holy office that requires the great esteem and trust of those around you. The only truly worthy leader will emerge from a democratic choice, reflecting the will of the people." Naruto inched closer to Momo and whispered, "Man, this guy is way too serious," he grinned. "I told you he has a stick up his ass." Momo giggled and shook her head in amusement. "He is correct about this though," she said, agreeing with the statement. They turned back towards their classmate who had this odd gleam in his eye behind his glasses. They saw him raise his hand in the air. "Which is why this must be settled by a vote," he declared dramatically while shaking a bit for some reason. "It's still too early to have developed any trust in each other. And everyone will just vote for themselves." The vote, thought Naruto, interested in the proposal, seeing the benefit with it, but that was also countered by the arguments that his classmates gave. "I don't care how you guys do as long as you have decided by the deadline, then it's fine by me," Aizawa said, already crawling into his sleeping bag, startling some of the students. Where did he get that from? They all thought seriously before shaking their heads as they all decided to vote for the class president. Naruto tapped his pen on his lips, thinking on who to vote for. "Momo is a good candidate, seeing as she's responsible, smart, and looks to be a good leader," he thought before glancing at his green-haired friend and grinning, writing down his name before handing it over. Moments later, a confused Naruto was staring at the board, which had him on top having 4 votes, with Momo coming in second with 3 votes. "Who the fuck voted for babyface?" Bakugo screamed, looking at the board, seeing he got 0 votes. 0 votes, I see how it is. Ida sulked in his seat, having gotten 0 votes for him. "You seriously voted for somebody else?" Momo deadpanned at him. "I even thought you wanted the position so badly. What are you doing, Ida?" Naruto was standing next to a smiling Momo in front of the class as he was still confused as to why he had gotten 3 votes. "So then it's decided that Naruto is the president and Momo is the vice president," Aizawa concluded, getting out of his sleeping bag to finalize the decision. "Well, looks like we both will have to do our best, Naruto," Momo said, smiling at her crush, who sheepishly smiled back. "Yeah. Ah, this food is so delicious," Ichako said, withholding a moan of satisfaction at the table, which had Naruto, Momo, Izuku, Ida, Itsuka and the new addition to their group, Sai. "I still don't get why I had the most votes for class president," Naruto murmured, having already devoured his ramen. "You guys had to choose the class president too?" asked Itsuka, raising eyebrow at her blonde friend. "Yes," Momo nodded her head before glancing at the blonde next to her, "and Mr. Here still got 4 votes, which was more than anyone," she said it with a sly smirk, making the blonde get a tiny blush on his cheeks. Well, isn't someone popular?" commented Itsuka, giggling, seeing Naruto get even more flustered. "It's nothing special," Naruto said lowly as everyone shook their heads. "Nakin, why you're blushing?" Izuku commented with a cheeky tone that Naruto didn't think his friend had. He narrowed his eyes at him. "Shut up, Izuku," the blonde said as everyone got a laugh from the interaction. "I voted for you." Tsuyu broke the silence after the laughter subsided, getting a surprised look from Naruto. "You did?" he asked, getting a nod. "But why though?" he asked. "You hold the record for the most points in the entrance exam for UA. You also were number 1 during the quirk assessment test, but you took initiative to help Izuku control his quirk alongside Momo, and succeeded. She listed off getting Naruto to rub his head after hearing the facts being pointed out. Still, muttered Naruto under his breath, not really being sure if it was the correct choice. Who did you vote for then? Asked Momo interestingly, as others were also intrigued. Izuku, he pointed towards his green-haired friend, who sputtered in surprise. Me? He stuttered, slightly being surprised. What? Naruto rolled his eyes. Don't be so surprised. You're smart, but you just lack confidence, and not only that, you also have a powerful quirk that's good for a leader, not to mention having you in that position would get you accustomed to the spotlight, raising your confidence, and you've always shown leadership qualities in middle school. During the battle trials you actually stepped up and showed courage, making a critical decision that ultimately decided the winner, which not everyone is able to do. He supported his friend, getting everyone to look at him surprised for what he said. You don't see it, do you? Deadpanned Itsuka at him, getting him to look confused. Atsui-san is right, Ida said, deciding to point out why he was a good choice, as she pointed out some good needed qualities for a leader. You just displayed another one of them, he pointed out. Naruto scratched his head. I did? He asked confusingly, getting the boy to nod. When Midoriya-san doubted himself, you instantly went to correct him while trying to lift up his spirits, and managing to do it too. He nodded to himself, closing his eyes. You also did it subconsciously without even thinking about. It is one of the reasons I voted for you, Uzumaki-san. You did, Naruto stated slowly, actually surprised before sweat dropping at his last name being used. You don't need to call me Uzumaki. Just Naruto is fine. But didn't you want to be class president, Ida-kun? Achako asked, putting down her bowl of rice. I mean, you've got the glasses and everything, she said, as if that explained everything. Is that what she thinks a class president needs? Everyone thought at the table, sweat dropping. It doesn't matter, because wanting to do it and being suitable for it are different issues, Ida stated. I merely did what I thought was the right choice. Hey, I've been thinking, Achako said with a starry look on her face. Are you a rich boy, Ida? She asked him, getting him to sputter. Oh, so you're of higher society, Ida-san? Momo asked, a bit surprised at him coming from a rich family. The blue-haired boy sighed. I tried to change how I talk because I didn't want to be called that. That got them to lean forward, eager to know why, while Momo gave an understanding look at him. My family has been heroes for generations. I'm the second son. He revealed, getting them to look surprised and awed. Whoa. Which one? Have you all heard of the turbo hero, Ingenium? Asked the blue-haired boy, while Izuku gained a starry look on his face and eagerly decided to answer. Of course. He's a really popular hero who has, he continued rambling on, going into his fanboy mode, getting a sigh from Naruto. Is he always like this? Itsuka asked with an amused look and tone. Yep, answered everyone from class 1A. Wait, don't tell me, Izuku said after his speech, looking at his glasses wearing classmate eagerly. He's my elder brother. He revealed, proudly standing up with a pose. Oh, so it's like the situation with Naruto, Momo said, nodding her head, getting those who didn't know to look at her in surprise, before looking towards the handsome blonde. What do you mean, Ribbit? Asked Sayu curiously. Naruto was just about to answer before Izuku once again went into his fanboy mode and answered before he could. Nakan's older brother is the current number 3 hero, Hawks, he revealed eagerly, getting those who didn't know to look shocked and surprised at this. Naruto gave his friend a flat stare, who upon realization, sheepishly smiled and sat back down. Of course. No wonder you are so talented and a good leader if he is your older brother, Ida said after a moment as Naruto shook his head. He's not my real brother because he adopted me years ago, the blonde revealed, making Ida deflate a bit, while Itsuka, Achako and Sayu were once again surprised. But what about your parents? Achako asked, but winced along with everyone else, seeing the sad look on her friend's face, and before she could apologize for her blunt way of asking, an alarm bell rang, startling everyone in the cafeteria. An alarm? There has been a level 3 security breach. All students please evacuate outdoors promptly. What's a level 3 security? The orange-haired girl asked confusingly and wearily, but they were startled when they saw almost everyone panicking and running towards the exit. It means someone is trespassing on school grounds. A third-year student revealed, much to their shock. I've never seen anything like this in the 3 years I've been here. You should hurry, too. Was all he said before bolting it from the table towards the exit, where rows upon rows of students were trying to get through, causing even more havoc. Naruto instantly stood up alongside everyone as they wanted to make a move towards the exit, but he held up his hand, stopping them. Why are we stopping, Naruto-kun? Asked a brown-haired girl of the group. If we just rush and we'll just get stuck in the horde of students, making it even worse for us and the others, and harder to get through the exit, he answered while looking around the room and spotting multiple people going through several emotions such as panicking, fear, weariness, and some being calm and collected, such as Shoto from their class and a student with indigo-colored hair. He sighed as he looked at the horde. I hope this works, he thought, stepping forward and taking a deep breath. Everyone stop right now. He shouted in the loudest and most authoritative voice he could muster. Everyone flinched from the loud shout as they actually all stopped and looked towards him, with the blonde being surprised at them listening, but instantly went back to being serious. Stop panicking. Second and third years get out of the exit right now, and first years line up right now and get through that exit, with the second years following after them and third years after them now. He shouted at the end, getting them actually do what he did as everyone from his group looked shocked and surprised. Naruto looked back towards them, his voice breaking them out of their shock. Come on, we need to line up too. They nodded dumbly and followed him, as everyone did what they were supposed to do. Naruto was unable to see a couple of eyes on him after him taking lead of the evacuation. One group being 3 students from the third year, Shoto and Bakugo, the indigo-colored hair student, and most of Class 1B. The students of Class 1 were standing in front of the school building, seemingly waiting for something, all the while they were in their hero outfits. You know, started Momo, nudging Naruto next to her, you really did take the role of a leader seriously back there at the cafeteria. Giving him a sly smirk, she continued, and you said you weren't sure if you were fit to be a leader. Naruto flushed red from the praise as he rubbed his head. He wasn't sure if it was a good idea for him to be seen as a leader. When he was young, he wanted to be Hokage because he thought that if he did that, then people would surely acknowledge him and not hate him anymore, instead of actually looking at the leader aspect of being a Hokage. But after hearing his friends' praise and support, he managing to cool down the students back there, he rather liked being in charge and wasn't skeptical anymore. You don't have to tease me about it, he murmured, pouting at her. She giggled at him, but before she could respond they heard a honk of the bus signaling them to step in. A couple of minutes later everyone was sitting in the bus with Naruto sitting next to Momo while everyone conversed with each other. Hey Midori, it's Ayu, said next to the mentioned boy, who looked at her. Why yes Asui. He stammered, slightly surprised at the sudden call. He was actually not stuttering that often anymore, but he still had his moments. Call me Tsuyu, she said before continuing, after seeing your quirk it really reminded me of All Might, she said, getting him to go wide-eyed at that as some agreed. Hey, that's kind of right, you know. You both have enhanced strength and speed. It's like All Might passed his quirk to you, Naruto joked, slightly closing his eyes with a grin, not noticing Izuku flinch and stare at him in shock with a slack jaw and wide eyes. Bakugo certainly did not miss how his childhood friend reacted to all these comments of his quirk's comparison to All Might's. He remembered him saying he got that quirk from someone and narrowed his eyes at the freckled boy. Your quirk reminds me of Endeavor, Naruto Mina exclaimed, looking at the boy with a wide grin. Naruto shrugged. I've heard that a lot, he smirked at them, but there is more to my quirk than you guys have seen, he said with his secretive smirk still on his face. Shoto, though, scowled at the mention of his father, but no one noticed it as he wasn't seated close enough to them. Next to him Momo raised an eyebrow at that. Oh, so what makes your quirk different, she asked him as her crush grinned at her, making her suppress a blush at seeing that. Thankfully she managed to do it with some effort. That's for me to know and for you to go crazy over, he said as she pouted at him. Come on, just tell me. Nope. Pretty please, she asked pleadingly with her eyes turning into the famous puppy dog eyes. Naruto almost got caught but looked away just in time, shaking his head at her. Fine then, she huffed. I won't be giving your hoodie back then, she said as everyone looked at them in surprise at that. If Yufumina giggled at them. What is this I hear about? She asked, grinning at them. Momo blushed red at her tone at its end. Not what you think, she desperately tried to convince them otherwise and blushed even further, along with Naruto, as they all just grinned at them knowingly. Mineta started crying hearing that Naruto. He cried out, jumping from his seat. Why must you always do this, he said with his tears still running down his face. What the hell did I do now? The blonde asked confusingly, trying to get the short boy away from him. The others laughed at his expense, while Izuku let out a sigh of relief upon the topic being steered from quirks. After their laughter died down, Ijiro activated his quirk. But you know I'm kinda jealous of you too, he said, getting an inquisitive look from them. You guys have such flashy quirks, and now Midoriya can control his quirk. My hardening power is not bad, but it's not as flash as you guys, he said with a small pout. My naval laser is both flashy and strong enough for the pro level, Yuga announced with his usual starry look. But it'd be bad if your stomach collapsed, Mina said, shooting down his praise of his. Bakugo and Todoroki also have flash quirks, Denki said, looking at the two mentioned boys who merely ignored them. Bakugo's always fuming so he won't be popular, Sayu said as Bakugo got a tick mark on his and stood up from his seat. You bitch, I'll be popular too. He screamed in rage at hearing that. Naruto snorted at him, getting him to look at him. You shut the fuck up, baby face. Your face is the only way you can get any popularity. Naruto ignored him in favor of talking to Momo. I got an idea about my hero costume, you want to know about it? He asked her, getting her to nod as Bakugo got even more mad for being ignored and roared in anger, while Izawa heaved a sigh at their loud rambling. Holy crap. Is this USJ or something? They exclaimed upon seeing the building where they would be practicing. They saw someone waiting outside the building for them. It was the space hero, 13. Upon seeing the hero, some of the students were awed as Izuku went into his usual praising of the hero and informing the others everything he knew about him. They were motioned to follow 13 as they went inside and saw how it was made for every different situation a hero can land in. 13 started giving them a speech and gave an explanation about his quirk before Izawa stepped forward and pointed. "Alright, that first." His speech was interrupted by electricity cackling around the building and most of the lights going off. Izawa's eyes widened as he looked back and saw a purple hole in front of the fountain that kept growing until a hand shot out of it and a person walked out of it. Narrowing his eyes, he looked back at his students. "Gather together and don't move. 13 Protect the students." He ordered his fellow hero, who nodded and moved back in front of the class. The class was perturbed as odd-looking people started coming out of the purple hole. What if Naruto's son Quirk in My Hero Academia end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.